With Victor Gyökeres likely heading to Arsenal, what next for Manchester United's search for a striker? Rio Ferdinand told talkSPORT who he wants in.
I'd be disappointed to miss out on Gyökeres if we don't get a number 9 in. Yeah. But if we got Osimhen, then I wouldn't be too concerned.
So Victor Osimhen to Man United. Well, our chief football correspondent, Alex Crook, reckons it looks unlikely.
Now that Galatasaray are really trying to push this deal, Napoli have turned down their initial offer, but he's already agreed personal terms. I think his game would translate very well to the Premier League. I'm surprised there's not more Premier League interest, really. Maybe it's his reputation character-wise. Maybe it's that he commands big wages.
Newcastle have agreed a £55 million deal to sign Forest winger Anthony Elanga. Ruben Amorim's side benefit from that too, receiving a 20% sell-on fee. This could help the club finally bag Brahim Mbeumo. Here's talkSPORT's Ben Jacobs.
The good news for Manchester United fans is that the valuation between the clubs is not far off. Manchester United's last bid was £55 million guaranteed, £7.5 million in add-ons. Those add-ons, to my understanding, were not gettable enough in the eyes of Brentford.
You can grab all the latest transfer news at talksport.com. Tennis now, and Jannik Sinner said he couldn't accept progress to the Wimbledon quarter-finals as a win after Grigor Dimitrov was forced to retire whilst 2 sets up. The Bulgarian fell to the ground saying my peck, and was reduced to tears before throwing in the towel. Brit Dan Evans told talkSPORT it's a massive loss.
It's the 5th Grand Slam in a row Grigor's had to withdraw from or retire from, I think. Yeah, it's terrible, really, especially, I mean, I know it doesn't make much of a difference, but he was playing such good tennis and he'll take no solace from that. But yeah, it's tough to watch.
And Chelsea could make the final of the Club World Cup tonight with victory against Brazilian side Fluminense. Tickets for the game are going for less than a tenner, a massive drop from almost 350 quid earlier this week. But travelling fans for the PSG and Real Madrid semi-final are paying almost £150. There's more on this at talksport.com.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to Jim White and Simon Jordan, and we're live on talkSPORT. So, as Anthony Elanga from Nottingham Forest to Newcastle edges closer, are Newcastle shopping in the going to the next level market? Meantime, after seeing their rivals engage in Amazon, are Manchester United missing an opportunity by not doing the same? Also today, Nick Kyrgios joins us as we enter the final stages of Wimbledon. Gary O'Neill or Chris Wilder? Who is the better fit for Leicester? How much longer can football resist the calls to pay for their own policing? Is there space for compassion in elite sports? And should the Premier League be made available on free-to-air TV? Jim White and Simon Jordan live in talkSPORT.
100% engagement.
Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT.
Good morning, Jim. Good morning, Simon. This is from Chinner in Camborne. Jim, ask Lord Billy Big Balls Jordan.
Is it balls he said, or something else?
If he's still happy with his pick to come out on top at Wimbledon. It seems to me his tennis tips are on a par with his boxing ones. Says Chinner.
And football ones.
Chinner in Camborne.
Football ones.
Chinner, we've started off the show with you, my friend. It's as if we know you. So you tipped, Simon, good morning.
Good morning.
You tipped Jannik Sinner to go all the way. He got through last night.
The skin of his tooth.
But by God, by default. I mean, I watched it, Simon. Grigor Dimitrov, for those who don't know, 2 sets up and 2-2 in the third. Dimitrov, this is. And then the poor fella had to had to take time out and eventually leave the proceedings through injury. It's not the first time this has happened, Simon. He's been forced to retire in each of his past 5 Grand Slam appearances.
Well, he's a very good player, and he's one of those players that people were always waiting for it to pop, but he's been laden down with injuries. So, yes, I mean, listen, I tend to tip based upon what I want to happen, rather than actually what I truly believe statistically and analytically will happen.
Well, I think that's very honest.
I'm guilty of that. That's why I never lay bets on it, because otherwise I'll be losing my shirt. But the fact is, he's had a huge slice of luck. Now, luck plays a part in every aspect of life, whether it's business, sport, or any other event. You know, if you're successful in life, it's 80% perspiration, but there's also the other factors in there, like luck. Now, he's had a huge slice of luck. And that may serve him really well to liven him up or to concentrate his mind, because he's waltzed through the first 3 games in the tournament in terms of lost 17 games, the lowest number of games in a tournament that anyone's lost to get to this stage, and then run up against this particular player, and he's got lucky. So there might be a component part. So just keep Chinner on hold for the time being, and we'll deal with him on Monday morning next week.
Chinner and Camborne. Simon's still going for Sinner to go
Chinner
all
and Sinner.
the way. Chinner and Sinner. Say sport.
Sport.
Sport is all about luck, really. I would say sport.
It's a good part of it.
It was so near and yet so far for Grigor Dimitrov. It made me think this morning, what's your favourite so near and yet so far moment in sport? There have been many, Simon. The one I thought of was, I think it was June 2017, Hampden Park, Glasgow, Scotland against England. England were 1-up, and then Lee Griffiths. Do you remember the 2 free kicks?
Yes, of course.
Brilliant free kicks at the Mount Florida end. And Scotland were looking good. 2-1, couldn't hold out. I think it was Harry Kane, 2-2. End of story.
Sliding doors.
So near. Sliding doors.
Johnny Wilkinson drop kicking in 2003.
Yeah.
In my life, you know, Crystal Palace in the playoff semi-final, we're going to win this semi-final if Ben Watson hits a penalty and scores it, and when the 78th minute hits the post, we go and get knocked out. A year and 18 months later, I'm in the crapper financially. And so you have all these sliding door moments, and if you went through the litany of sporting events, you'd be able to find so many moments where if this had not happened, then that wouldn't have happened, and the whole world would have turned differently.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe you want to throw me a few of your so near you yet so far moments. Mine would be that game, the Scotland game, when I thought Scotland were going to beat England thanks to Lee Griffiths, but we ended up drawing with them 2-2. 8-10-89 for that. This is a Martin Keown free zone this morning. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was quite a morning yesterday, wasn't it? It was quite a day. But I'll give him his due. He sticks to his line. He sticks to his opinion, whether he thinks he's right, wrong, or not. No matter what, he's quite strong, man. He's resilient.
Yeah,
as he was as a player.
I think that what is the purpose of a mind if you can't change it?
Right.
And if you avail yourself of new information, I'm very happy to concur with the view that players need to be protected against the vigours of sport. The challenge for me, and it goes always back to this, is how do you make this model work that's now been created? And the only way they keep making it work is by keep on introducing more money to keep on feeding this ravenous beast. Yeah, that part gets ignored. All the benefit gets ignored. And what I disagree with and dislike about people that just shout opinions at you is that I'm guilty of doing it as well, but I will also tell you what my solution might be.
Yeah.
What I don't like people doing, and this is why I have really objected to PFA, is all they tell you is what they don't want to do. We'll tell you what we want. We want all the benefits.
Yeah.
We'll have all of the benefits. And then when it comes to the flip side, which is, well, these benefits, they come with a bit of a sting in the tail. No, I don't fancy any of that. Okay, well then what's your solution to this magical 4 weeks that you require, which 99% of all players are getting? It's only the 1% that aren't getting it. And what's your solution to the challenges of fixtures when you need your 48, no longer 48 hours or whatever Keown wants?
Yeah.
There's silence.
Yeah.
Because they full well know that it's easy. It's like the idea of socialism, a great thing until you run out of other people's money, isn't it?
Well, I mean, he mentioned, Martin yesterday mentioned Maheta Malango, the man at the top of the PFA, and how willing he is, apparently, according to Martin, to come on our show. I know Maheta. I met him a few times at recent events. And we'll see if we can pursue that, because it would be a good chat to have, and we'll see where we go with it.
But they don't like being challenged.
Right.
It's people like to come on and they like to have their opinion and drive by with it and drop it in. No one ever challenges it, and then everyone gets on nicely.
Yeah.
If someone says, "Well, what about that?" And what about this? And they don't like any of that, and that's why they don't want to come on shows like this.
I wonder if Newcastle United fans are having this. I would have thought they would be. Newcastle United this morning, Simon, closing in on their first summer signing after agreeing a fee of £55 million to sign Anthony Elanga from Nottingham Forest. This was Nottingham Forest, Simon, who bought Elanga for £15 million in 2023.
I bet United have got a nice sell on that.
Absolutely, a £40 million profit in the space of 2 years on that one.
Well, maybe, but United will probably have United, although their competence needs to be questioned. They must have a sell on.
Yeah,
so they'll have some of that.
Newcastle have been chasing this signing since last summer. Is Elanga the sort of guy that's going to take them to the next level? When we talk about them going to the next level, would they, with a front three of Elanga, Anthony Gordon, and Isak in the middle, is that going to take them to the next level? I think it's not too bad, to be quite honest.
I mean, Anthony Elanga wasn't really wanted at Manchester United. He's had a standout season at Nottingham Forest. I suppose, as much as I can muster up any sympathy for Marinakis, I feel a bit sorry for Nottingham Forest.
Why?
Because the rewards of Nottingham Forest is that they're going to get cherry-picked off by sides that are perhaps in a slightly better position than they are. Forest have got plenty of money. Marinakis has got plenty of money. They probably can go for a period of time toe-to-toe with the ownership model at Newcastle economically. But they can't, because they can't get themselves into a position where they can meet the requirements of the governance.
But you feel sorry for Marinakis. It's a £40 million profit in the space of 2 years.
But he's losing a good player. So this team that we looked at last year...
buy another one.
Yeah, but you've got to build teams. And teams aren't just built overnight. And so if you start taking away the best parts of the team, all of a sudden next it'll be the other kid, Gibbs White. And then it'll be someone else, and it'll be someone else. And all of a sudden, the structure, the backbone of Nottingham Forest that deserved so much praise last season and so much credibility for what they did starts to get underpinned because everybody's, look at Forest over there. There's the vision.
Yeah.
We'll pinch all their players.
Yeah.
And whilst they get a big profit whilst they get a big profit on a player, it's only good if you're going to reinvest it back into the playing squad. If you suddenly make yourself worse and you fall 5 places down the league, you haven't made so much profit. All of a sudden, you've dropped 5 or 6 places in the league. You've cost yourself £20 million in merit payments. So what was the big deal about selling it?
Never mind Forest. Let's stick to Newcastle. What's it all about for them next season? Is it about kicking on? Is it about going to the next level?
But what does the next level look like? Okay, do we, in all good consciousness, and there's lots of challenges this year, we don't know what Man City are going to do. We don't know what the tragic events at Liverpool are going to do to impact upon that football team, because it will have an impact. And we don't know whether Arsenal, it's all well and good Arsenal saying, we're going to buy Zubimendi and we're going to buy Gyökeres. They've still got to incorporate them. By buying a centre forward, Arsenal have got to play a different way than they've played before. So it's not given the question that you put to Keown yesterday, do they expect to win the league? So Newcastle, do we really think that Newcastle are going to finish in front of any of these sides? It's a difficult question to answer. So what is the next level? FA Cup? Because they're not going to. I'd be gobsmacked if Newcastle win the Champions League next year. It's not beyond the wit of man. So if they have a nice season in the Champions League but don't win it, they might retain the League Cup. They might win an FA Cup. What's the next level for Newcastle? Stabilising in the Champions League spots.
Well, it's a good point you make. 4 years into the Saudi ownership has brought a League Cup and 2 Champions League qualifications. So they are going in the right direction.
I think they've done very well.
But will they end up going to the next level? I think they might go close. I remember Eddie Howe speaking in May, and he virtually said, we look to take advantage of others in this PSR landscape. This was Eddie.
The PSR deadline plays a huge role for clubs, both those clubs with PSR issues and those without, because those without may potentially look to try and sign players, take advantage of other clubs, as clubs did to us last year, quite rightly. So it's a really interesting dynamic, and one that we're very aware of, and we'll try to use to our advantage if we can. But certainly I can't go into sort of the details of that, but no doubt we've got people at the club that are working very hard behind the scenes on it. Yeah, we want to keep our best players, Martin. I think I've made that very clear. That's not just the wish from me, that's the wish from everyone at the club. Don't have a crystal ball. I can't sit here and say what's going to happen. I can only say what my determination is, and it's to build a team, the best team possible. And to do that, I think you can't consistently lose your best players.
That's quite right.
He's right, isn't he?
Interesting.
Isak staying.
Interesting. He said that people taking advantage of PSR quite rightly. He didn't think it was quite right last year. He was infuriated by it. Now Newcastle are in a position to be able to take advantage of other people's PSR travails. Now it's quite rightly people could take advantage of it.
Yeah.
And then Newcastle are still caught by the same situation. Newcastle, in order to kick into the next level, they probably need to spend 200-300 million quid over a series of transfer windows.
Well, they've started well with Elanga. 55 million.
Yeah, but everyone can
We're
buy,
at the 8th of July.
But every football club in the Premier League can buy a £55 million footballer. There's no revelation in that.
Yeah.
I mean, Elanga's a decent player. And Elanga's a decent player. I mean, you're not buying a well beater, you're buying a decent player. I like Eddie Howe. I think he's a great manager. I've changed my opinion on him, not done a complete U-turn, but I've changed my opinions on him because I spent more time in his company. Yeah. And I think his team have been a revelation to watch at times. I feel sorry for Newcastle. I feel sorry for Nottingham Forest. I feel sorry for Aston Villa because this is not what sport was confected to do. It was supposed to be, if you've got an opportunity to be the best, you can be the best. Yeah. And if you can see the vision, you can get the vision, and a lot of it's about money. So everyone else can do what they want. Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester City, Man United, they can spend what they want. Right. Because they've got PSR under control because they've got £600 million turnovers. These clubs have not got that, so they can't.
Let's start with Newcastle this morning then, Simon. So Elanga is all but in, 55 million quid. Newcastle, the same Newcastle United, are considering a move for free agent Dominic Calvert-Lewin following the departure of Callum Wilson. So what are we talking about here? Are Newcastle shopping in the next level market? Elanga's in, maybe Calvert-Lewin's on the way. Is it the next level market? 81089, or give us a call. Why not? Come on and join us. 03717 22344. We're with you with Salco, where the trade goes.
Plays that villain role very well now. It's crying out for a little bit more attention. It comes with a lot of crazy people. I took it personally and it kind of made me rebel a bit more. To be honest, I don't really care anymore. I'm never going to change.
Good morning, everybody. Tuesday morning, Jim White, Simon Jordan, live in talkSPORT. Those so near and yet so far moments. Grigor Dimitrov last night against Yannick Sinner in the tennis at Wimbledon. So near for Dimitrov and yet so far. 2 sets up. Third set, he had to retire through injury. Many of you get in touch, 81089 with your so near yet so far moment. There is one from Gary. Good morning, guys. John Terry's penalty slip in that 2008 Champions League final against Manchester United. Remember it, Simon, in the rain in Moscow. It rewrites both Chelsea's and United's history. That's a very good point, actually. Very good point in that one.
For Liverpool against Chelsea again with Demba Mar going through on goal, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, I remember that one. And it's Malcolm. The greatest so near and yet so far moment in sport in the world of golf, Jean van de Velde. Do you remember that, Simon? 1999 British Open at Carnoustie still remains one of the most painful things to watch when it was thought that he was going to win it and ended up blowing it. Martin is a Newcastle fan. Jim is a Toon fan. I love the Elanga signing. He's rapid. He works hard and has developed his end product absolutely brilliantly. As a team, yeah, you bet. It gives us a whole bunch of attacking opportunities. Watch this space. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting.
Harvey
Simon
Barnes is a good player as well, isn't he? Anthony Gordon's, they've got a bunch of players that can play in this way. Are they enough to take them to what we consider or anyone considers the next level? And what is the next level for Newcastle? Is it an assault upon the Premier League? Maybe it is.
I think so. I think it's got to be. It's got to be.
It's a tall order. It really is a tall order because there are teams with better players, with bigger pockets that are more established. And Newcastle are nibbling away year on year, getting themselves into a situation where 2 out of the 3 years that Eddie's been there now, they've got into Champions League spots.
Yeah.
The first season was a recovery job and he did it at Cantor, didn't he? Second season, they were brilliant. They were brilliant. I remember watching them against Man City in that second season, and they took Man City to task.
Yeah.
I think they drew the game 3-3, but it was a really good game.
But maybe with Newcastle, Simon, if they can get themselves into an Arsenal position, maybe they will try and get themselves over the line a bit more effectively than Arsenal did. Because they've got firepower, that's why.
Well, they've got Isak. Isak. When Isak's injured, what else they got?
They've got Gordon one side, they'll have Elanga the other side.
Yeah, but
they've got Bruno who chip in.
How many goals do wingers score?
They've got Joe Linton who chip in.
Yeah, maybe.
They've got Harvey Barnes who'll chip in.
Like Eddie Howe said, he doesn't have a crystal ball. What he's trying to do is assemble a team, being the best team it can possibly be, and see what it lends itself towards.
Well, we put it out there going into the break. Newcastle United fans, are you shopping in the next level market? It would seem to me you are. And Elanga will be part of that. Adam's a big Newcastle fan, and he has called 03717 223344. Adam, good morning. What do you make of this signing, and are you going to the next level this season?
Morning, Jim. Morning, Simon.
Morning,
Adam. Fantastic show, as always.
Thank you.
Do you know what? I don't think we need to shop in this, in inverted commas, next level. What you've got to factor in, I think on paper we've got one of the strongest midfields in the Premier League, and they're players like Bruno Guimaraes, Sandro Tonali, that all the big teams could have signed a few years ago, and they didn't. And now they're probably some of the best players. And what you also got to factor in, Eddie Howe has made Joe Linton one of the best centre midfielders in the Premier League. He was signed as a forward under Benitez. Okay, and now he's in the Brazil squad.
Yeah.
So yes, Anthony Elanga is a great player, phenomenal addition. I think we paid the good money for him. But you've got to factor in that Jacob Murphy last season had one of the best seasons of his career, and that was under Eddie Howe. So
true.
We need to be shopping in the Mbappe and Haaland markets. Absolutely not. We've got Eddie Howe.
Adam, you sound as if you know what you're talking about. Give me this just before you leave us. What does the next level for Newcastle look like to you?
Well, for us, would I have taken a, Champions League place over the Carabao Cup last season? Absolutely not. The Carabao Cup was phenomenal for us, but to compound that with a Champions League place as well is phenomenal. So, if we can have seasons where we're winning trophies and getting in the top 4, and then maybe the next 3 to 5 years pushing for the Premier League, ambitions for, I think, a lot of Newcastle fans was winning a trophy. That box is now ticked. Top 4 finish on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Then we can build from there, and the PSR thing becomes less of an issue. Hopefully those rules and regulations change in the future. But I think, if we can steady ourselves in a top 4 position, which absolutely I think we've got the squad. And for us, it's about building the squad rather than just buying the marquee signings.
Adam, I like it. Very good call. Thanks for that. Simon, if you're part of the Saudi ownership, are you happy with where you're at
Well, we've seen what Saudi ownership does in other sports. It owns. The king of boxing is Turki al-Sheikh. And so he's had a free range to be able to do as he wants. And his money and his desires and ambitions and innovation have created an opportunity for him to be top of the pile. He's calling the shots. Everybody comes down and comes to him. So I would imagine that's what they wanted at Newcastle, to have a team that they could build.
Yes.
But I would suspect, in the great scheme of things, looking at what they've been able to achieve, realising that once they've walked into the environment, that the rigours and vigours of it are weighted against them because of the construct of the way that the governance is put in place, I would imagine that they're quite happy. The fact that the sides, on the whole, with one season in the middle of it that wasn't a progressive season, it was sort of a treading water, going slightly backwards season, they have been a very, very productive 2 or 3 years, 3 or 4 years. They kept themselves out of the relegation problems that they had at Cantor by bringing Eddie Howe in.
Yeah.
The first season, their fourth season, they marched into the Champions League. They were a brilliant side to watch. Second season, a bit of if and or buts. And then this third season, fourth season, they've won a cup and they've won a place in the Champions League. And,
see, I mean, he might be right, he might be wrong, but I remember speaking to Yasser Al-Rumayyan, the Newcastle chairman, after they lost the Carabao Cup final to Manchester United. And he said to me behind the scenes at Wembley, we're already at the next level. We've lost today, but we're at the next level. Well, now they truly are. But here's one for you. Does the PSR landscape and the restraints of it negate the Eddie Howe Bobbles argument?
What's his argument?
Or is that, or your argument of that Eddie will not be the fella that will take you to the bobble you want?
No, sorry, the promised land. Yeah, sorry, my argument. My belief is that Eddie Howe will do a sterling job at Newcastle, and the more I've watched him and listened to him and paid attention to what he's doing, the more that sentiment has increased. I don't see Eddie being in situ on the day that Newcastle win the Premier League, if they ever do.
Still?
No, I don't. Well, he's going to have to be there a long while, I think. And I'm happy. I'd be delighted to be wrong. I'd be delighted for the cabal to be broken up. I'd be delighted for Newcastle to ride roughshod across all the governance and come straight in with a £350 million turnover next year and do a number on the cities, Liverpool's, Arsenal's of the world that have got almost double their turnover. I'd be delighted for them, because I think it would be great for English football. I think it would be certainly great for that hotbed of football up in that part of the world. And we'd never hear the last of it, would we?
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, I think it's a very tall order. What he's doing is he's building a very, very, very competitive side.
Yeah.
That's able now. So now they're going into Champions League again. He's got to build a squad to match the Champions League expectations. We now know that this format that they've got in the Champions League suited Aston Villa really well and made a song and dance out of it for Celtic, who still got knocked out of the same stages.
Yeah,
but everyone looked better. So he goes into new Champions League format. He's building a bigger squad.
Yeah.
So now we want to see if Newcastle can operate on 4 fronts. Can they operate in the Premier League, the two domestic cups, and the Champions League?
Sure thing. Remember Amanda Staveley saying we will win the lot one day. Well, they've won one. They've won one, and that was the Carabao Cup. There's a bit to go yet. Cam Norrie remains the last British singles player standing at Wimbledon as he overcame Nicolas Jarry, and it carries on today against Carlos Alcaraz. What lies ahead for our Cam, even though he was born in South Africa? I'm just saying. A man called Nick Kyrgios will join us after the news at 10:30.
With Victor Gyökeres likely heading to Arsenal, what next for Manchester United's search for a striker? Rio Ferdinand told talkSPORT who he wants in.
I'll be disappointed to miss out on Gyökeres if we don't get a number 9 in. But if we got Osimhen, then I wouldn't be too concerned.
So Victor Osimhen to Man United. Well, our chief football correspondent, Alex Crook, reckons it looks unlikely.
I think his game would translate very well to the Premier League. I'm surprised there's not more Premier League interest, really. Maybe it's his reputation character-wise. Maybe it's that he commands big wages.
You can grab all the latest transfer news at talkSPORT.com. Tennis now, and Jannik Sinner said he couldn't accept progress to the Wimbledon quarter-finals as a win after Grigor Dimitrov was forced to retire whilst 2 sets up. The Bulgarian fell to the ground saying, my peck, and was reduced to tears before throwing in the towel. Brit Dan Evans told talkSPORT it's a massive loss.
It's terrible, really, especially, I mean, I know it doesn't make much of a difference, but he was playing such good tennis and he'll take no solace from that.
And Chelsea could make the final of the Club World Cup tonight with victory against Brazilian side Fluminense. Tickets for the game are going for less than a tenner, a massive drop from almost 350 quid earlier this week. But travelling fans for the PSG and Real Madrid semi-final are paying almost £150. There's more on this at talksport.com.
Good morning, everybody. It is Jim White and Simon Jordan. This beautiful Tuesday morning, the good weather has come back. Wasn't away for long, and I'm delighted about that because the tennis needs the sunshine, and the tennis will have the sunshine today and hopefully for the rest of the week. Jim White and Simon Jordan live in talkSPORT already. I've got to say, even this early, thank you. Thanks to everybody who listened to this show. Thanks to everybody that watches this show. We stream live on YouTube and your smart TV. And you're joining us this morning, as you do in big numbers every morning between 10 and 1, courtesy of Selco.
I tell you,
we're delighted about that.
I tell you, he was a really nice fella.
Oh, yeah.
Harlem Eubank. Did a Harlem Eubank on Talk Boxing.
Where did that come from?
I don't know, because I was thinking about nice fellas and I was thinking about Kean. And that's why I went on the other way with it.
Harlem Eubank, yeah.
Really, really nice kid.
And this is even after losing just days ago.
Came in off the back of a loss.
Yeah.
But just a really nice, I'm not suggesting that anyone else in the Eubank family isn't nice, but a very different animal.
It's funny to hear you say, I tell you who's a really nice guy. Very rarely hear you speak like that.
Say, Nick Kyrgios is a nice guy.
Yes, Grigor Dimitrov looked a very nice guy last night. It was a sad sight at the end of his match, or the match coming to a premature end. 2 sets up on Jannik Sinner, 2-2 in the third set, and then that was it. I think it was an injury to a pectoral muscle that brought about the end for him. As I say, 2 sets up against the world number 1. I wonder what our great friend, if we're talking about friends, this fellow is one, the great Australian tennis player Nick Kyrgios thought of that. Nick, good morning to you.
Hey guys, how are you going?
Good, thank you. Just sort an argument out for me. Where are you staying at the moment? I love that little dresser behind you and the plates on it.
I'm just staying at a nice little house at Wimbledon Village. Literally just moments away from the Dog and Fox, really. So yeah, it's very tactical. It's a very tactical place to stay for me.
It looks cozy. It looks like you've got everything you need there. Nick, last night I outlined what happened with Grigor Dimitrov. What was your thought about it when it sank in? Did Jannik Sinner get away with one last night?
Yeah, honestly, look, I definitely do think he did get away with it. Grigor Dimitrov's actually got the game style to trouble Yannick Sinner. He's got great variations, got one of the greatest slices in the game that we've seen. But look, he's retired from the last previous 4 Grand Slams, and this makes it 5 in a row. So, he's approaching 34 years old, 35 years old. So, I really hope that he can get his body right, because as we see there, he's got a lot of high-level tennis left. And I think Yannick Sinner knows that he got away with that one yesterday, because he was in some deep trouble. 2 sets to love down, and it was a competitive third set. So, look, the stars are aligning for maybe a Sinner and Alcaraz final. But yeah, I do really feel for Dimitrov, because he was playing some amazing tennis.
He was unbelievable, Simon. I know you didn't catch it last night, but he really was. I thought when it started, Sinner can win exactly whichever way he likes here. Far from it.
No, I mean, he's a good player. This other kid's a good player. Do you think, from a championship mentality, that going into the third set, that it was anything but done? I mean, ultimately, Sinner has a real resolve, as you spoke about top players the other day and the psychological battles that you all go through and how you overcome them. Yep. I mean, if he'd have got that third set, Sinner, then the dynamics of the game would have changed, wouldn't they?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like Sinner would have still had strong belief in his game style, that he was more than capable to win. But Dimitrov was playing such great tennis and was executing the game plan perfectly, to be honest. But Sinner's number 1 in the world for a reason, and this was my kind of solution to these kind of matches before the quarterfinal. If it's best of 3 sets, then that match is over, and then it becomes best of 5 sets after the quarterfinal. So that would have been Yannick Sinner out of the tournament, and we wouldn't have seen this injury from Grigor Dimitrov if that was the case. But I think Sinner, if he managed to sneak that third set, he probably starts mounting that comeback. But Grigor Dimitrov, seeing him go down again, and you could see how much that was hurting him. He was in tears at the end, because he's had a really tough run at these Grand Slams. So,
Nick, I noticed that Sinner will now face the young American Ben Shelton in the quarters. Judging from what I've seen so far, I know who the crowd will be with, and it ain't Sinner.
Yeah, I mean, look, Shelton is an exciting personality. He's very lovable. The crowd gets behind him. He plays an exciting style of tennis. He serves big. He comes to the net. He plays on instinct. He's a bit rough around the edges, and I think his story this week's been good. He's got his sister time off work. He's got a love story going on. He talks to the crowd. He's got that energy where, it's different, and I think the crowd will really get behind that. And it's going to be a good match, because him and Sinner have had some clashes before that have been really entertaining.
Were you surprised? I mean, we spoke when you were in here a couple of weeks ago, Nick, about Draper and his chances, and I didn't think this was the tournament for him, and I don't think his game is ideally set up for grass. Were you surprised at the manner he got dealt with by Cilic?
I mean, I'm not super surprised, but at the same time, like, anytime a player of Draper's caliber loses early at a Grand Slam, you are surprised in a way, because even if grass isn't his best service, he's figured it out. He won Stuttgart, he won one of the lead-up tournaments to Wimbledon, and whether or not it's grass or it's the pressure of playing at home, he's never been past the second round here. And I don't know if that's whether to do that he's not comfortable on grass, or just struggling to manage some of the emotions of playing in front of the home crowd and the expectations of trying to get your home Grand Slam. But look, Cilic, again, we've spoken about it. Cilic is a great player. He's a past Grand Slam champion. He's one of those guys that broke through against the big 4 whilst they were in their prime to win a Grand Slam. So Cilic is a hell of a player. But again, I like the accountability from Draper, understanding that he has to get better on this surface. He has to adapt. So, I think we're going to see Draper have success here soon enough.
I'm loving some of the backstories that are emerging, Nick, in this tournament. Djokovic goes through yesterday. He faces the Italian, the 22nd seed Flavio Cobolli in the quarterfinals. Cobolli's dad, who's his coach, is crying on his shoulder. I mean, it was unbelievable to watch. And this kid is so brave. I hope he goes in and gives a good account of himself. But Djokovic looks awesome.
I mean, look, this is the great thing about Wimbledon is it creates stories like this. It literally does make dreams come true. And we've seen Nicholas Jarry have a great week again. Having some family member pass away, and he's playing for him at Wimbledon. It's just an exciting tournament, and it does make dreams come true. But again, talking about this matchup, Djokovic is just ridiculous. Can we just talk about how this guy just keeps defeating Father Time, and he's playing guys that are in their absolute prime, 26, 27-year-olds who physically are so amazing. And yesterday he was 4-1 down with break points in the fourth set, and in 15 minutes he somehow turns that around and the match is finished and he's in the locker room. Again, Djokovic is surprising me and surprising everyone. And I think he's motivated by the fact that he's kind of been forgotten this tournament. Everyone's like, is anyone able to beat Djokovic and Sinner? And it's like, hey, what about the greatest of all time? Like, I'm still here. I'm still, easing through the draw, really. And I think he believes. And I haven't seen him this comfortable on court for the last couple of years at Wimbledon. Yes, he made the final last year, but he didn't really look comfortable, and now he looks really good. So
yeah. There's always this factor in it, Simon. I don't know if Nick agrees. When they're playing in front of Federer, who's sitting there yesterday, Djokovic made the point. Yeah, I was well aware of Roger watched my every move, and I wanted to get to the next level because he's sitting watching.
I think the point he's making is every time Roger comes and watches him, he loses. I think that's the point he was making, wasn't he?
Yeah, I just think that Djokovic is that type of personality, and this is why I love him so much. Where he would probably see Roger there, and he's like, I'm gonna try and play some of my best tennis in front of Roger to make him feel jealous that I'm still here competing for Grand Slams. Like, I genuinely think that he's got that mindset that like he wanted to show Roger that he's the greatest of all time. Like, I genuinely think that's what he was trying to do yesterday, and to beat Alex de Minaur that like. Pretty simple in the last couple sets. It's not easy, and I think Djokovic is he's the GOAT. Like, there's no other way to put it.
He is incredible. What's also been incredible is some of the technology calls in this one, and I know you've got a lot to say on this, Nick. I mean, Wimbledon has made changes to its electronic line calling system to remove the possibility of human error after it was accidentally deactivated on Sunday. How that happens, anyone's guess. An operator error meant that the ball tracking technology was turned off for one game in the fourth round match between Kartal and Pavlyuchenkova. Where are you at with this? I know you've got some very strong feelings on this, because this has been a big talking point since this moment in that match.
Well, I mean, we spoke about this as well. This is, I think, either Wimbledon have rushed getting the electronic line calling for this tournament, and they kind of rushed it all and didn't get it fully functional. I'm not sure, but to have a malfunction this is our best tournament. Like, there's no better tournament than Wimbledon. So if this is happening here, then it raises the question of, has it always been working 100% at other tournaments? And it's, these players train their entire life to get to this stage, and they're playing for potentially millions of dollars. And lucky Pavlyuchenkova did win that set and goes on to win the match. But what happens if she loses the match? And it's just not good enough. It's very amateur, and to say that there's a malfunction and turn it off for a couple points, then turn it back on, it's just not good enough. And I think Wimbledon knows that, but the answer is maybe just go back to line umpires and have me and McEnroe screaming at them. Like, maybe that's what we have to do.
Well, I mean, Tim Henman, Nick, you'll have seen, he says that complaints from the likes of Raducanu, Draper and others about the electronic line calling technology are total garbage. Yeah, I mean, he says, to be honest, I was commentating on some of the matches, and when you see it in real time, Henman says, you sort of think, oh, did that look out? And then you go back, as he's done, and he says, you look at them in slow motion, and they're on the outside edge of the line. They hit the line. The narrative is that the technology is not inaccurate. And Henman says, no, that's not the case. It's not inaccurate. That's garbage.
Well, I mean, surely Tim Henman said that before this whole ordeal with Pavlyuchenkova, because she posted the photo on her Instagram afterwards. The ball was 3 to 4 inches out, and like, it wasn't even traveling that fast. And what I'm saying is, now we don't know. Like, the players, we're very observant players. Raducanu and Draper are in their early 20s, so there's nothing wrong with their eyesight. So maybe it's something to do with the electronic line call.
Nick, is, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but that wasn't technology missing the technology for whatever reason, and we need to know why it was deactivated. The technology wasn't engaged. If the technology had been engaged and it had not called it out, then we'd have a problem. But the technology wasn't switched on. So the bigger question is, why wasn't it switched on? So we go back to Henman's point, which is, in your instance, where if Henman was making the point after this event, then he's a fool. But he wasn't. And if and the circumstances surrounding the technology are not fair to say the technology didn't work. The technology wasn't bloody switched on.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. If the technology is engaged and there hasn't been any sort of mistake before. But again, like now we don't know. Do umpires just, when there's malfunctions, do they just turn it off for a couple points?
Can I ask you, Nick, as a player, have you guys been involved? I made the point yesterday that when the technology was brought in, it must have been brought in for a reason, and it must have been brought in to some extent in conjunction with players' wishes. Were the players have had nothing to say about this at all? You've got no voice on this whatsoever, or no opinions on it, or no investment in making sure that people are bringing it in for the right reasons?
Well, funny you say that, because this is what the PTPA movement is for. We were the only sport in the world that didn't have a players' association, and the players haven't been heard for the last decade or decade and a half. So this is why the movement of the PTPA that Djokovic started, Pospisil, that I've been really going up against the ATP to try and get the players' voice heard, so we can have a say in things like this, what balls we use, some scheduling issues. So this is why we're starting to try and get that players' association, so we can have a voice and we can be in these conversations where things like this don't happen. Like, this is Wimbledon.
If you had a voice, Nick, would your voice now be, put aside the aberration of being deactivated, would your voice be in favour of technology?
Definitely. Like, I want the game to evolve. I do want the game to evolve, and I want it to be easy. Maybe it is better long term, of course. But at Wimbledon, I wish Wimbledon just never changed its traditions. I think that's just more as a fan and as the little boy that watched it and it's played there now. But again, I want the sport to always evolve and change and be better for the players and for the crowd watching and anything. But again, like, this is. It just can't happen. It can't happen at this level.
Okay, all I need is a surname from you, and we'll finish at that, Nick. Norrie Alcaraz today. Who wins it?
Look, I think Norrie is completely in his power to potentially cause an upset. Definitely the way he's playing. He's super confident, and they've had super competitive matches before, and he's had a win against Alcaraz. So I do think it's possible, but to be safe, and I've been very good with my predictions this week.
Yes.
I think I'm going to safely say Alcaraz in 4 or 5 sets. I do think Norrie can go out there and cause an upset, though.
Brilliant. Nick Kyrgios, as always, brilliant to have you on this morning. Thank you so much. Nick Kyrgios, live from a lovely little house near Wimbledon.
Around the corner for me. He's got all the bases in that answer, though, isn't he?
Yeah.
4 or 5 sets, Alcaraz, but Norrie could cause an upset.
Yeah, he's quite right. Look, when it comes to predictions.
Yeah, but it's all the bases.
Yes.
So he's got it right all the time. I did tell you he could have caused an upset. I did say he was going to win.
Good. We still have to organise that match, incidentally. Me and Kyrgios against... who was it? Against Simon and who? Was it Simon or was it Keown and Stuart Pearce? Anyway, I'll get back to Kyrgios on that. We're live this Tuesday morning.
plays that villain role very well now. It's crying out for a little bit more attention. It comes with a lot of crazy people. I took it personally and it kind of made me rebel a bit more. To be honest, I don't really care anymore. I'm never going to change.
Interesting situation with televised football matches is coming to light. And the question here really is, should the Premier League be made available on free-to-air TV? Bear with me briefly on this, Simon. MPs are set to vote today on a Liberal Democrat amendment to make at least 10 Premier League games available on free-to-air TV. Let's cut to the chase here. Why is this happening? And it begs the question, after over 30 years behind a paywall, has the horse well and truly bolted on this one? Max Wilkinson, MP of Culture, Media and Sport, he joins us live. He's at Culture, Media and Sport, of course, for the Liberal Democrats. And Max joins us live on the show. Max, good morning. Tell me about this. Why is it that this vote is coming about, and why are you pushing for it in an amendment form?
Morning, Jim. Morning, Simon. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
We're pushing for this today because we think it's time to bring to an end the paywall that means that people who can't afford to watch top-flight football, in most cases, don't get to watch it. I think over the last season, it was costing you about 700 quid, almost 700 pounds if you wanted to subscribe to TNT and Sky to get access to every Premier League game. And let's face it, if you wanted to watch all of them, you'd have to subscribe to both. Now, what we think is that having a small number of games available for free-to-air is something that's the right thing to do. If you look at the viewing figures, actually, they've gone down on both of those platforms over the last season. We know people are watching football in different ways. They're watching clips on social media. They're watching people playing on computer games. And actually, if you look around the continent as well, in Spain, there's already a precedent here. They've got one game a week for free on DAZN. And this is something that we think we could bring here, and it would be good for the game. It would be good for fans, particularly because we're all suffering this cost of living crisis.
Before Simon comes in, Max, I would ask you, it's down to the broadcaster, presumably, to decide which are the 10 that go free to air. I mean, you're not going to get the Manchester derby. You're probably not going to get the Liverpool derby. Are the big ones going to remain behind a paywall?
Well, of course, that's something for the broadcasters and the competitions to sort out. What we're saying is that it's the right thing to do to give people some element of free-to-air access. Now, I'm not going to say that it has to be the Manchester derby or Man United Liverpool. Those are obviously marquee games. But you'd like to think that there would be some decent fixtures that would be on. And let's face it, most Premier League games are pretty good to watch. You're football fans, right? I'm a football fan. I've been to more than 50 Football League grounds as a Southampton fan. And I'm really passionate about the game. I want to make sure that the next generation of football fans is going to grow up as passionate as we are.
Right. Max mentioned it, Simon. La Liga has a deal with the streaming service DAZN that offers one free game a week to fans.
Yeah, you have to pay for DAZN.
And the Lib Dems are suggesting that a model similar to that of the Spanish league could be adopted in the UK.
Well, good for them. The DAZN is behind a paywall. DAZN is a subscription service. I mean, ultimately...
What, are you not having this?
I'm not for it or against it. I'm interested to see how it evaluates. I do get tired and weary of politicians doing hokey-cokey with sport, coming in and out of it and using it as currency. And I do think that the independent regulator is an absolute faux pas that will be visited back on a sport sooner rather than later. And every time a government gets involved in industry, I'm not entirely sure it benefits it.
Yeah, but how can you argue with this? It's making football more accessible to football fans.
Well, the price point that's become part of the inaccessibility, it's ironic because free-to-air platforms had the opportunity 32 years ago to do something with football, and ironically free-to-air didn't even want to broadcast football in the late 80s and early 90s. They didn't like football very much. So the fact that Sky came along and revolutionised English football and catapulted it into a place that dwarfs the revenues of La Liga, dwarfs the revenues of Bundesliga and so on and so forth, has created a model in football that you're going to row back from. So it'll be interesting to see how the economics, how you strip out 10 games from the broadcast platform that's already there, and how you compensate football, whether you like it or not, because the genie's out of the bottle. The economics of football are at a stage now where the broadcast deals are so significant, so financially significant that football is funded by them, and it's all well and good having this wonderful moral crusade to be able to tip your little hat towards the populist vote of we want to bring football back to the people. It's already with the people. The challenge is how do the economics work?
Is it a moral crusade, Max? I mean, you will say you want to make sport more accessible, more affordable. But on the other hand, your critics will say, oh, this is the Lib Dems trying to get more votes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not here as a moral crusader. Of course, there are morals involved in politics. I had actually a lot of sympathy with what Simon just said there about over-regulation of business. In general, I think we need to start from a point where we're letting business do their thing. Football is a different case, though, and football is about our heritage. Football is about the things that make us passionate as human beings and as people who love to watch sport. We love to follow our teams, and actually we know that viewing figures are going down on those two platforms. What I want to see and what the Lib Dems want to see today is people in Parliament voting to give more access for television coverage of the top flight football.
I do hope that Liberal Democrats are going to be voting in favour of not allowing the government to sell off thousands of sporting playing fields around the country. I do hope you'll be as vociferous on that subject. But I'm interested to see how you think it will be economically achievable, given that the Premier League has done its broadcast deals, done them for the next 2 or 3 years. And of course, if you're stripping games out, and I would imagine it's to the nation's broadcast to the BBC that you might be talking about, how that financial package will be evaluated through and put into play.
Briefly, how can it be done then, Max? How can you achieve this?
Well, of course, you'd have to look at what happens the next time the contracts are up for negotiation. It's not just the BBC, though, Simon, as you know, that will screen free-to-air football. I remember watching one of the European finals recently, and I didn't have to have a subscription to the channel that I was accessing it through, but it was free to air. There are opportunities here to do it in a different and new and quite innovative way. And I think if you started saying that you're chunking up the packages differently, and let's face it, they already chunk it up into live games on Sky and TNT and then highlights on the BBC. It's just about chunking it up slightly differently. And let's face it, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of games in those packages, and saying that you're stripping out just 10, I don't think would have a massive impact on the economics of football. And as a football fan, the last thing I want to do is put the economics of football at risk. We've also got this position, right, where the football governance bill the football governance bill is there to try to make football more sustainable for fans and for the game, and more financially sustainable. As a football club owner, Simon, you did a terrific job with Palace, right, taking them back to the Premier League, and then you had some financial difficulties later on, but you were a good owner for the club. There are many good owners out there, but there are many club owners that haven't done the right thing over time and have got into difficulty. Now, this discussion today is all about the sustainability of football, and sustainability of football comes down to having fans who want to access the game, and we know that the generations that are coming behind
with due respect, you need to understand what sustainability means, because if sustainability means having an ownership model like the Saudi Arabians that have got more money than God, yet they can't compete in the marketplace they operate in, that's not anything to do with sustainability. But the fact is, if you strip 10 games out, Jim, 10 games will be worth 100 million. That's what 10 games will be worth. Watch the Premier League clubs turn around and say, oh yeah, we'll be happy to give up £5 million a season.
Okay, Max Wilkinson MP will watch with interest. As you heard there, MPs set to vote today on the Lib Dems amendment to make at least 10 Premier League games available on free-to-air TV. What do you think? Is this some moral crusade, do you think, that the Lib Dems are on? Or are you behind it? Yeah, you bet I'll get behind it. Is that your thought? At least 10 Premier League games available on free-to-air TV. You might want to come to air with us, other side of 11 o'clock, and let us know what you think. 03717 223344.
With Victor Gyökeres likely heading to Arsenal, what next for Manchester United's search for a striker? Rio Ferdinand told talkSPORT who he wants in.
I'd be disappointed to miss out on Gyökeres if we don't get a number 9 in. But if we got Osimhen, then I wouldn't be too concerned.
So Victor Osimhen to Man United. Well, our chief football correspondent, Alex Crook, reckons it looks unlikely.
Now that Galatasaray are really trying to push this deal. Napoli have turned down their initial offer, but he's already agreed personal terms. I think his game would translate very well to the Premier League. I'm surprised there's not more Premier League interest, really. Maybe it's his reputation character-wise. Maybe it's that he commands big wages.
Newcastle have agreed a £55 million deal to sign Forest winger Anthony Elanga. Ruben Amorim's side benefit from that too, receiving a 20% sell-on fee. This could help the club finally bag Brahim Mbeumo. Here's talkSPORT's Ben Jacobs.
The good news for Manchester United fans is that the valuation between the clubs is not far off. Manchester United's last bid was £55 million guaranteed, £7.5 million in add-ons. Those add-ons, to my understanding, were not gettable enough in the eyes of Brentford.
Okay. You can grab all the latest transfer news at talksport.com. Tennis now, and Jannik Sinner said he couldn't accept progress to the Wimbledon quarter-finals as a win after Grigor Dimitrov was forced to retire whilst 2 sets up. The Bulgarian fell to the ground saying my peck, and was reduced to tears before throwing in the towel. Brit Dan Evans told talkSPORT it's a massive loss.
It's the 5th Grand Slam in a row Grigor's had to withdraw from or retire from, I think. Yeah, it's terrible, really, especially, I mean, I know it doesn't make much of a difference, but he was playing such good tennis and he'll take no solace from that. But yeah, it's tough to watch.
And Chelsea could make the final of the Club World Cup tonight with victory against Brazilian side Fluminense. Tickets for the game are going for less than a tenner, a massive drop from almost 350 quid earlier this week. But travelling fans for the PSG and Real Madrid semi-final are paying almost £150. There's more on this at talksport.com.
Mid-mornings on talkSPORT, and this is one of them. Tuesday, July the 8th is Jim White and Simon Jordan, and we are live in talkSPORT. Streaming live, of course, as you know, on your smart TV and on YouTube. For all the information on how to watch the show, just head to talksport.com/watch. Later on this morning, we'll be talking about who's it going to be. Is it going to be Gary O'Neill? Is it going to be Chris Wilder? Is it going to be one or either of these two that gets the Leicester job? We'll get to that in the fullness of time. In the meantime, we're stuck on this. MPs set to vote today on a Liberal Democrat amendment to make at least 10 Premier League games available on free-to-air TV. Funnily enough, as we mentioned, Simon, La Liga has a deal with streaming service DAZN that offers one free game a week to fans, with the Liberal Democrats here suggesting that a model similar to that of the Spanish League could be adopted in the UK to give the game back to the fans.
DAZN's a pay, so you have to have a subscription with DAZN, though, don't you?
Yeah, but this is one and the same thing here. This is what the Lib Dems are suggesting.
No, they're saying,
in amongst all the paywall situation,
but why
don't we have 10 free-to-air
I don't disagree with the principle of it, but how do you do that when you use the example of DAZN?
Yeah.
DAZN is a paid-for service. So the one game a week on DAZN is not free. You're having to pay 9 or 20 quid a month to have a DAZN subscription. So what's that got to do with the price of cheese?
But the one game is free outside the subscription.
But you've got to have a subscription to be able to see it. You don't get DAZN for free.
No, you haven't.
You can have DAZN for free. You can't have DAZN for free. You have to have a DAZN
watch one game for free
by having a DAZN subscription.
No.
Okay.
You can watch one game for free.
So I can watch. I can download DAZN and watch Spanish football for free, even if I haven't got a DAZN subscription. What's the point of having DAZN subscriptions then?
Well, the Club World Cup is free on DAZN. You don't need it
by having a DAZN subscription.
No, you don't need it.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm watching it on a regular basis.
And you don't have a DAZN subscription?
I'm watching it. No,
okay.
You can watch it as you wish.
I've learnt something today.
So the Lib Dems, in the person of Max Wilkinson, MP, Culture, Media and Sport, told us moments ago,
by the way.
The Lib Dems want to make sport more accessible, more affordable. But of course, is it something of a moral crusade as well? It's a vote getter. Of course it is. But the bottom line is, can it be done? They want to do it. They want to get the vote through today to make at least 10 Premier League games available on free-to-air TV. But which 10 games would it be? And how do you negotiate that with the broadcaster? Is it a good idea anyway?
What they want to do is they want to give the regulator the teeth.
Right.
So in the next broadcast deal, so not only will the regulator be saying to the Premier League, just follow this line of thinking for a second before we go to calls.
Yeah.
They want the regulator to redistribute. And they want the regulator to redistribute money, the Premier League to give up money, and now they want the Premier League to turn around and wave off a whole load of money to give it free to air. Oh, good luck with that, mush.
Okay. There is John in Norfolk. Simon this morning, Jim, showing his true capitalist colours.
I am indeed.
Are you?
Is that with capitalism?
Is that what you're
Responsible capitalism. It's good.
There is Tom. Good morning, Jim. Even though I'm over here in Germany, somewhere. A red card to him, Jim. Honestly.
Yeah.
That Lib Dem MP and the regulator. A red card to them, says, what's his name? Tom in Germany. What do we make of this vote? MP set to vote today on this Lib Dem amendment to make at least 10 Premier League games available on free-to-air TV. Sam is a Manchester United fan. Sam, do you agree with me? It's one thing the Lib Dems saying this and then having a vote on it. It's another thing actually implementing it.
I think where the problem sits is not so much implementing it, it's what games are going to be done. Earlier on in the show, you guys were talking about how Newcastle are sat on, God money, but can't use it all and everything of that nature. These 10 free games, are Manchester City versus Arsenal going to be sit there and free to air? Or is it going to be a couple of lower tier teams that are just like, locals will love it, big fans will love it, but the reality is they're the ones that are going to get hit with this £5-10 million loss and have 3-4 games lost, and then suddenly they're 30-40 million out of pocket, and it's not going to be the big four that can afford to take that hit. It's going to be the lower league teams that get the hit, that can't can't afford to have that loss.
Sam's got a good point there. It's not going to be Arsenal Manchester United, is it?
Well,
with all due respect.
Well, who knows how they're going to construct it? But first of all, the distribution of the money isn't just you get a certain amount of TV appearances guaranteed. So if you're going to continue getting those, and you have the free-to-air component part of it as well, the big thing is if you're giving all the games to the current broadcasters behind a paywall, how are you going to carve it out and how the economics going to work? And it isn't just going to be that the smaller clubs. Yeah, they can have their Burnley versus Bournemouth. No one will want to watch it, but they can have it.
But do you accept that not all games need to be behind a paywall?
I accept the principle of the fact that broadcasting football is very valuable to people that want to watch it. The challenge is the genie's out. So how do you unwind this story now economically? How do you unwind it and turn around and say that 32 years ago, the free-to-air boys had a chance? They didn't want it. BBC, ITV, they didn't want it. ITV wanted it for a lot less than Sky. Sky have built football. It's gone behind a paywall. Football's been funded by broadcasters and by benefactors, and you're now at this point where you think you're going to row it back. You think you're going to row it back, and you think you're going to get a bunch of politicians and a nondescript bunch like the Liberal Democrats to put forward an amendment to a regulators bill that's going to turn around to football and say, first of all, we want to make sure that the Champions League and the League Ones are getting more money, and by the way, on top of that, we're going to make sure that we impact upon your broadcast deals. The Premier League are not going to have it.
Yeah, but having said that, let me throw this at you. Say free-to-air, one of the 10 free-to-air, for argument's sake, is Burnley against Palace. Yeah. And Palace win at Burnley by 4-3. Yeah. That might incentivise more people to buy a package.
Yeah, and you know what? It's also called a thing called Match of the Day. And highlight packages, which is and quite ironically,
it's highlights.
Yeah, but
highlights aren't the same as live.
Aren't we being told? Aren't we constantly combating the argument that people are consuming football in a very different way now, and they're only consuming tidbits of it? And they want to watch it in real time.
Well, you shouldn't have an issue with this, then.
Well, I do. I don't have an issue with it. Full stop.
Here's 10 free-to-air games.
I don't have an issue.
Consume it in a different way.
Don't position me as having an issue with it. Position me as saying, okay, then you clever sods in government and politicians that are sitting there waving your hands at getting populist people's opinions on side with you. How are you going to deliver it? Because you want the independent regulator in, you want the independent regulator to redistribute. Agree with you. Okay, you're going to take a bunch of money out of the Premier League, give it to the Championship, who, by the way, nick it all and don't give it to League One, and then you're going to turn around and say to the people that are generating the money, which is the Premier League, by the way, we want to take your broadcast deals as well. It's silly, and all it is designed to make people look, oh, that's a good policy from the Liberal Democrats.
Graham,
what a
Newcastle
good party
fan.
to vote for.
I'm coming for it. You just don't like him because you're a Lib Dem. Say they make this work.
They're irrelevant.
10 Premier League games available on free-to-air TV. Say they make that commercially viable and they make it work.
Fantastic.
Would you back it?
Well, why not?
There you go. Thank you. Graham's a Newcastle fan. Do you back this? Good morning.
Oh, that twaddle, gentlemen. Oh, that twaddle. I'll listen to that gentleman practically read off a script. Our game is the biggest in the world. It's wrapped around the finance of football. The fans get uproar if we can't buy a player. We need that money from the paywall people, your Skies, your TNTs. We need that money in the game. And there's no way this is ever going to get passed.
So you're saying no to the offer, Graham, of 10 Premier League games available free to air?
That's not what he's saying. He's looking at the economics and saying...
He's looking at the economics, but in the same time, he's still saying no to the 10 free to air. Am I right?
Absolutely, because it'll impact... I'm a Newcastle fan, and it's going to impact what money we get, ultimately.
Would it?
Well, of course it would do. You've got, as Graham is alluding to...
into the dynamics of the game.
Okay, Graham.
If the free-to-air boys, by the way, the ITV and Channel 5, want to pay a load of money for it and put it free-to-air and wrap it around an advertising roster, good luck to them. If they want to pay the same money as the Sky are paying and then make it commercially viable like Sky have done, then nobody cares, do they, Graham?
Absolutely not, but it's not going to happen. And I think he wants to stick to do some proper politics instead of trumping up this stupid idea of pay-per-view.
Okay. Listen, thanks for that, Gary. Very quickly, James, if you can do it in a couple of sentences. James, a Wolves fan, where do you stand on this?
Hi, good afternoon. So good morning, I should say.
Morning.
First of all, you guys said that Wolves were going to go down. I'm the same, James. You didn't say you're going to go down, but...
Oh, here he is.
Proves that you got it wrong that time.
Well done, James. Yeah. Well done. What about this? 10 free-to-air games.
Right. Great idea.
If he hadn't come in early with the "you said we would go down" and we didn't,
did we?
Then he might have got to it. Listen, I tell you what, we're going to head to Australia. Simon has had a few things to say about this fella, the Australian rugby legend David Campese of late. You've been none too complimentary. I've got news for you. He's joining us next.
Figured he would.
plays that villain role very well now. That's crying out for a little bit more attention. It comes with a lot of crazy people. I took it personally and it kind of made me rebel a bit more. To be honest, I don't really care anymore. I'm never going to change.
Good morning, everybody. It's Jim White and it's Simon Jordan, and we are live on talkSPORT. This is Tuesday, July the 8th. A big day at Wimbledon. Can Cam Norrie do it? You heard Nick Kyrgios speaking earlier on from his little rented house throughout this Wimbledon period.
Might not be little.
Probably won't be little. Very near to the courts themselves. And Nick was saying, yeah, it's a big moment. Can Cam Norrie raise his game and see off Carlos Alcaraz today? We shall see in the fullness of time. We'll also see in the fullness of time if the British and Irish Lions can do what they hope to do and win every test on the current tour down under in Australia. They've got off to a decent enough start in the warm-up games, 3 wins down under, and one wonders how they're going to go once it gets serious, and the serious part is on the way when the British and Irish Lions take on Australia in the upcoming first test. Before that, they have another match, another game against one of the regional clubs. They take on the Brumbies tomorrow morning in Canberra, and it's live and exclusive on talkSPORT 2. One fellow who's always fairly outspoken in this sport, and of course always talks up Australia, and why wouldn't he? Because he's a proud Australian who wore the jersey many times. I'm delighted to say the Australian rugby legend, that is David Campese, joins us live on the show. David, hi to you. Thanks for joining us.
Morning, guys. How you going?
Very well, David. Good to be speaking to you. Let's get down to it. 3 wins down under for the British and Irish Lions. Have they impressed you so far?
I think they have. I think the first 2 games by 50 points was very telling. But again, you know, one of the things that I didn't realise until a couple of weeks before the Lions, that majority of the test players will not be playing in those games. So you're not really getting the full-strength team. You're getting a team that's a lot of younger players. And at the end of the day, it was really men v boys. And that's where the 2 victories came in the first 2 games. The third game against the Waratahs wasn't great. There were a lot of mistakes. It looks like everyone was trying a bit too hard to make sure they made a spot in the test team. And I think the pressure was starting to tell. But, you know, I mean, they are going to be very, very hard to beat. For me, the player they have to have in the team is Finn Russell, because he's the one who creates the opportunities. You don't know what he's going to do, and you keep the opposition guessing. And when you've got players like that, you definitely need them on the field.
Sure thing. When the Aussies are looking at the Lions at the moment, do you think in any way they fear the Lions?
Well, look, I think it's like any other team you play. I mean, it has been very difficult because, you know, you're playing against a team that are full of international players. So playing the Western Force, you know, which is one of our Super Rugby sides. Then you're playing the Reds. Now you're playing the Waratahs. The Brumbies are our best team in Australia at the moment. So that'll be a challenging tomorrow night. I don't think you're not supposed to fear anybody as an international player. You've just got to be wary. And what you've got to do is you've got to really go out there. And again, you know, the most important thing in the rugby game is you only play as well as the opposition lets you play. So if you're going to play up and down rugby or very structured rugby and the opposition know exactly what you're going to do, it makes it very easy to play. And it's interesting, you've got Joe Smith, who's a Wallabies coach, but obviously coached a lot in Ireland. So he knows a lot about the Irish rugby and the way that Farrell coaches. So it's going to be very interesting about the mindset of the two coaches. The Wallabies played yesterday against Fiji. It wasn't a fantastic hit out. Some of those guys haven't played for 4 or 5 months, which is ridiculous. And then you've got to turn around in 10 days' time and play an international rugby game. So, you know, not being too smart, but or critical. I mean, why wouldn't we have played a game earlier as well against a team that's pretty tough? Because, you know, Fiji are very open the way they play. They'll run the ball from anywhere. The Lions don't do that.
Yeah.
The Lions are very calculated. They're very structured, and they know how and they're here to win, so they're not going to take any chances.
David, can I ask you, I mean, you made the point about not necessarily being able to make an objective opinion on the Lions at this moment in time because it's men against boys. Are you surprised then that the reasons why that has been in part because Joel Smith hasn't wanted the players to be available to these provinces to be able to play in these games? Are you surprised at that stance?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I was very surprised. I mean, you know, obviously back in '89 we only had New South Wales, Queensland, but all the Test players played in those games. You know, we was New South Wales at full strength. The Queensland Reds were at full strength. Now, you know, when you delete the side, because you know most of the teams are made up of realistically, you got probably 4 or 5 really good players. The rest were, you know, they're good players, but the great players stand out. And, you know, the Reds were the same. They had a lot of second-team players, and you could see that after 20 minutes. They start off fantastically well, but then the game gets harder, and that's when the Lions dominate.
I mean, do you think that Joel Smith showed a sort of psychological weakness by suggesting that it isn't right for these players to play in these games, or is it a sensible way for him to operate because he wants his best players available and not subject to any injury when the real business comes to hand?
Well, I just think it's very sad that we have to do that. I mean, every opportunity to play against the Lions, you know, you only get one chance really at the Lions because they're every 12 years. So, you know, if you don't play, just say you're in the Test match, you don't make the team, and you mightn't get on the game, you won't play the Lions. You know, you've got to play your full-strength teams, and then you can work out the Lions when they come to the Test match where the strengths and weaknesses are. At the moment, we're still trying to find out because the teams they've played against haven't really pressured them that much.
Yeah. David, I noticed you had some interesting comments to make when Owen Farrell was called up by his father, yes. Andy Farrell. You said you've got to question the judgment here. I've always been respectful of the Farrell name. This is a weak pick by Daddy, and weak isn't what I'd expect from them. Do you still stand by your Owen Farrell nepotism claim?
Well, look, I found it very interesting, and it's strange because about a month before the Lions team was picked, I said to somebody, Farrell's going to pick his son. I just know because when Farrell gets on the field, he'll do what he's told. He's one of those players that will follow what the steps are from the coaches. You know, you've got Finn Russell, you've got no idea what he's going to do on the field. You know, he's one of those players that are very unpredictable. But the thing is, for me, you know, Daly was a big loss, who was a fullback 13, 14, and then you bring another 10, 12 over. So now you've got 4 number 10s. So what happens if Kinghorn gets injured or Keenan the fullback? You've got 1 fullback left. You can't put Smith back to fullback because he's not a fullback.
But David, let's get back to the nepotism aspect of it. Do you think Andy brought in O because it's his son?
Yeah, well, obviously. I mean, I think that's wrong. That's what my point of view. And as a player, as an ex-player, my son's at school, and I will never coach my son. Doesn't matter what level. I don't think it's right because I've been there, done that. I don't want to be involved. If he's good enough to make it, you shouldn't get help from your dad to get to the next level. That's just my opinion.
I mean, even one of your own, Matt Gitto, was having a swipe at you. He said, I respect Campo as a player and as a person, but he needs to stop coming out making these silly comments, doing nothing for his reputation and respect in our game. The more he talks about the game, the way he does, the less people will remember him for the genius that he was. Gitto's not having you, and you're both.
Who are you talking about?
Matt Gitto.
Who's that?
103 caps for Australia.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. I know who he is, yeah. So everyone's got an opinion, mate. I mean, I've got my opinion. He's got his opinion. I don't really care.
But you've got no problem with saying what you say and standing by what you say, even if someone who's won 100+ caps for Australia says, Campo, you're overstepping the mark here.
Well, I don't think I spoke to Matt Giddo. Last time I spoke to Matt Giddo was 2015, so I've got no idea where he is, what he's doing, and I don't really care. So that's my opinion, and I just, as I said, I chose him before he was going to get picked in the series, and he is picked. So at least I've got something right, haven't I?
I mean, Gitto jumped on it when he heard some of the things you were saying about the Farrells. You're not saying what you say just to get a rise, are you, David?
No, look, the thing is, I actually told you, I said that before he's going to get the team was picked, he was going to pick his son, and look what happened. I look at things very differently than a lot of other people. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I'm just saying that that's what I think. And that now what's going to happen? So which number 10 is not going to make the test team, or number 12 because Farrell's going to get picked?
Yeah, I do think, I get the impression that, I mean, I respected you enormously as a player, David, and what a player you were. But I get the impression that you like having a tilt at the English, if you like. I'm Scottish, but of course I fall into the Lions category as well. I want the Lions to beat you a lot. I mean, Simon even described you as the Ian Chappell of rugby the other day. You like having a tilt. You do like having a tilt at the English, David. Any chance you get, do you not?
Well, I mean, I was brought up in the 70s when the cricket was sledging, the Ian Bothams and all that, mate. So that's my era. So why not? And the thing is, I always get a reaction. Isn't that the whole idea of it?
Yeah, I'm hearing it. I'm hearing in my ear. And listen, well, I have to say, in the process, we're really delighted that you've joined us, Matt Gitto. I'm hearing David might be joining us tomorrow. Have you got a message for Matt that I can give him?
Yeah, just say I'm happy as well. Hope he's enjoyed his retirement like everyone else, and yeah.
Fantastic. Who comes out on top, David, when it comes to the test matches? Will it be the Aussies or will it be the Lions?
Yeah, look, I think it's very sad that we've firstly we're in this predicament now. You know, you're 10 days out. We play a test against Fiji, but the thing is, we played players that haven't played for 3 or 4 months. I mean, what do you expect them to turn up and be superstars? You need the combinations. You know, at this level of Test rugby, you know, the Lions are getting together. They've had 3 games. They've got another couple of games, so they're going to get their team together, and they'll probably play the Brumbies tomorrow. Probably might be full strength, or the next game. Then they've got a Test match. We don't play another game, so we've got guys.
Don't you love it when an Aussie gets his excuses in early?
No, look, I don't. I saw that what Joe Smith said as well. He's the coach. He knows. He's known that you guys have been coming for the last couple of years. So he's saying, "Oh, look, we're underdone" and all that. I mean, everyone knows. You know, Sawali's had almost a broken jaw about 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Jorgensen hasn't played for 6 months. Why are you picking these? There's other guys who are good enough to be there. You know, and the combinations at that level, combinations are vital. And I can see with the Wallabies that the combinations weren't there. It's no one's fault. It's just our fault that we haven't prepared properly.
David, terrific, actually. Great to get your view on a whole range of topics regarding this tour. Thank you so much for joining us.
All the best, guys. Speak to you soon.
What a guy, David Campese. And Matt Gitto will be joining us. We'll throw 1 or 2 points that Campese made to Matt Gitto. Remember, you won't miss a trick. The Lions tour, the warm-up games, of course, and the tests themselves, live on talkSPORT, as is the game against the Brumbies tomorrow morning in Canberra, live and exclusive on talkSPORT 2.
With Victor Gyökeres likely heading to Arsenal, what next for Manchester United's search for a striker? Rio Ferdinand told talkSPORT who he wants in.
I'd be disappointed to miss out on Gyökeres if we don't get a number 9 in. But if we got Osimhen, then I wouldn't be too concerned.
So Victor Osimhen to Man United. Well, our chief football correspondent, Alex, reckons it looks unlikely.
I think his game would translate very well to the Premier League. I'm surprised there's not more Premier League interest. Really. Maybe it's his reputation, character-wise. Maybe it's that he commands big wages.
You can grab all the latest transfer news at talksport.com. Tennis now, and Yannick Sinner said he couldn't accept progress to the Wimbledon quarter-finals win after Grigor Dimitrov was forced to retire whilst 2 sets up. The Bulgarian fell to the ground saying, "My pec," and was reduced to tears before throwing in the towel. Brit Dan Evans told talkSPORT it's a massive loss.
It's terrible, really, especially, I mean, I know it doesn't make much of a difference, but he was playing such good tennis and he'll take no solace from that.
And Chelsea could make the final of the Club World Cup tonight with victory against Brazilian side Fluminense. Tickets for the game are going for less than a tenner, a massive drop from almost 350 quid earlier this week. But travelling fans for the PSG and Real Madrid semi-final are paying almost £150. There's more on this at talksport.com.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Get ready for the golden era of sports betting. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+gambleaware.org.
And Matt Gibson from BetMGM joins us as we look at the Club World Cup, as we look at Wimbledon, as we look at a bunch of things. Matt, good morning to you. I spoke about the Club World Cup there. We're at the semi-final stages. Tonight, Chelsea Fluminense, a talkSPORT exclusive. And tomorrow at 8 o'clock, Paris Saint-Germain Real Madrid, a talkSPORT exclusive. What are you thinking, mate?
Yeah, very much the business end of the competition, fellas. 8 p.m. Kick-off tonight. Fluminense, Chelsea, the Brazilians outsiders at 17-4, 11-4 the draw. Chelsea odds-on favours at 4-6. Ex-Chelsea captain Thiago Silva in defence for Fluminense, maybe why. They've kept 3 clean sheets and only conceded 3 in 5 games. Haven't actually lost a game in this competition so far, unlike Chelsea, who did get done by Flamengo earlier in the group stages. Delap suspended tonight, fellas. So does João Pedro make his first start? With that in mind, potentially a decent bet builder with some all right value for the listeners. Chelsea to win the game, João Pedro any time and over 2.5 goals. He's coming out at about 5-1. We've certainly got this, lads, as a pretty straightforward win for Chelsea. 1 foot in the final kind of job. Are you having that, or are you giving the outsiders any chance?
I'm not so sure, Matt. To be honest, I saw a bit of Fluminense against Al Hilal, and Fluminense won it by 2-1. I thought Al Hilal may have caused them a few problems. Fluminense, I think, will have a game plan for Chelsea. I do err towards Chelsea, I must admit. I do go head towards them. I think we're looking, Simon, at a Chelsea-Paris Saint-Germain final.
Yeah, you'd think so. I mean, ultimately, we've seen a couple of surprises. Obviously, Al Hilal beating Man City, and then all of this sudden rise of the Middle East was eclipsed by losing the next game to Fluminense. I would expect Chelsea to come through this, and I expect it to be a PSG-Chelsea final, and I now expect PSG to overcome Chelsea.
Right, okay. Real Madrid, though, many people think they'll go all the way, or do they, Matt?
Well, we reckon the winner comes out of that PSG Real Madrid game. PSG are 13-10 to win the whole thing. Real Madrid 9-5. So certainly the stronger half of the draw comes up tomorrow night. But I think Chelsea will. I can't split PSG or Real Madrid. It depends on what kind of side Madrid what turns up really. But Chelsea for me, 1 foot in the final.
Okay. What about a transfer roundup of sorts? What are you offering us in that area?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone from Arsenal was listening last week when I gave them some stick for not getting anyone through the door. It appears they've had quite a busy week. Zubimendi through the door, just heard on the news there. Christian Norgard due to be unveiled. Kepa confirmed as well. Gyökeres has agreed a 5-year contract, so personal terms are there. They're just waiting on clubs to agree fees. Figure close to 70 million quid, which gets you a half-decent number 9 these days. Madueke and Eze really sort of short in the odds. Eze 4-9 to sign for Arsenal. If you add those sort of linked players and the new signings to what they've already got alongside Saka, Martinelli, Havertz, Odegaard, Jesus, Trossard, if you add Gyökeres, Madueke, Eze, Zubimendi to that, are you having them as title contenders? We've got them at 5-2 for the Premier League. Liverpool top the market at 19-10. Or do you think your 10 quid is better spent on Newcastle at 12s or even Chelsea at 16s?
I think, Simon, if you get those fellas through the door, if you get Gyökeres through the door, if Zubimendi is in there, if you get Eze through the door, you have to think of Arsenal as title contenders.
Yeah, well, I think they're title contenders as they are now. The difference between title contenders and title winners are two different things, aren't they? They've been contending for the title for the last 2 years. This boy Gyökeres that obviously was sold by Coventry and has gone on to be a superstar in Portugal, different landscape. He's not given that he's just going to slot straight into Arsenal's team and score goals from the get-go. He is the answer to some of Arsenal's problems, but Arsenal will have to change the way they play. Their build-up play will be different. The outcomes that they've got, which is the number 9 dropping into the hole and using him in a certain way, that's what they're using the boy up front Havertz for. Yeah. They're going to change now. They've got an out-and-out centre forward, so it might not be just a straight line, but you would think that if you're buying these players of this quality, goal-scoring record in Portugal to one side, Zubimendi that came on to replace Rodri in the European Championships, everyone went, there wasn't even a beat missed, good players, and you would expect Arsenal to be stronger, and stronger must mean closing the gap. And of course we've got the situation at Liverpool, the tragedy that's there, and will that have an impact upon the team? And all of these things bring out a situation where Arsenal will categorically be contenders.
Yes.
But I wouldn't put my money on Arsenal winning the league.
No, Arteta said it would be a big summer. We'll see if that comes about. And what about Wimbledon, Matt, before you leave us?
Yeah, undoubtedly the story yesterday was how Sinner came through his game against Dimitrov. Simon, I know you were fairly keen on him yesterday. He was 7-5 to win the whole thing yesterday before his game. He's actually moved out to 11-5 despite going through the rounds. So the bookie's certainly looking at that performance against Dimitrov and saying maybe he's not as sure as we thought he was before his knockout 16 game. Carlos shortening all the time at 19-20, but he's got to get past Cam Norrie today. Cam Norrie beat them the last time they met each other in Rio in 2023, but granted the Brit is 10-1 outsider. I've always been sweet on Carlos, lads, and I think Sinner's shown a little bit of weakness, and an injury yesterday just strengthens Carlos's claim on the title.
Yeah.
I mean, listen,
Alcaraz to win today.
I think Alcaraz is a remarkable player. I think he's probably the most gifted player on the circuit right now. It's just a feeling, and it's probably wind, that Sinner will find his way through to the final, and if he gets Alcaraz in the final, there'll either be psychological damage and PTSD from the French Open, or there'll be an additional energy from Sinner. Now that might all be academic because Alcaraz is such a good player. Yeah. But I still think I'm not writing off Djokovic. And Djokovic, some of the points he played yesterday, one of the particular points against Di Matteo yesterday was absolutely absurd.
Outstanding. Yeah. Matt, thank you very much indeed. Matt was with us, courtesy of BetMGM. Visit betmgm.co.uk, download the app. 18 plus, begambleaware.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Keep things golden with responsible play at betmgm.co.uk. 18 plus, gambleaware.org.
plays that villain role very well now. It's crying out for a little bit more attention. It comes with a lot of crazy people. I took it personally and it kind of made me rebel a bit more. To be honest, I don't really care anymore. I'm never going to change.
Simon Jordan, it is you, isn't it? Simon Jordan, live in talkSPORT, courtesy of Selco. It's where the trade goes. Dodge and Bradford. I love Simon's tennis predictions. He covers every base every time he does a tennis prediction. Do you? I mean,
no, I've said Sinner.
No, you went all out with Sinner yesterday.
I said Jack Draper will not win this tournament and get knocked out.
Right.
I said Sinner will win it.
Yeah.
So I've been quite definite in my prediction. I said Abu Raducanu will get knocked out.
Yeah. All right. Dodge, what are you on about? When it comes to these behind-the-scenes, all areas, behind-the-scenes documentaries, you think of Amazon, you think of Amazon Prime, access all areas. Are we having them? We've certainly seen a few of them in the past, and now Manchester United have been deliberating as to whether or not they're going to do one, get behind the scenes in an Amazon production next season, even after everything that's happened to them last season. And we've seen Arsenal, Manchester City and Tottenham all participate in them, and we've seen what unfolds.
Edison invented the light bulb. Today I want to see a team that is connected, because a bulb by himself is nothing. I want to see a team that is connected with each other and that shines. And you want to transmit to him light and energy and passion and how you play football, and you too the same.
Sit down! Nobody talk! Sit down! We drink water and relax! You are sad? There are many sads. I'm not good. I'm not good enough. I know that. Don't make faces. He's only the one in my team. I try to do my best. It's all. In a few years you can be a manager and you can do it. No problem. But until now, guys, I am the boss, and I decide.
It's the same for you. It's the same for Ari. It's the same for Lucas. Make the run. 1 minute to go. 1 minute to go. We need to go to the goal. What's your respect? Respect you. Make the run. Make the run. Make the run for the team.
Well, we've seen Arsenal, we've seen Manchester City in that last clip there. If you're watching on YouTube and your smart TV, you would have seen Tottenham in the form of Son and the goalkeeper.
Hugo Lloris, yeah.
And Hugo Lloris squaring up to each other in the dressing room. So it certainly gets tasty, and it is access all areas. But it's not for Manchester United this season. Manchester United have withdrawn from talks over what would have been a record-breaking Amazon Prime Access All Areas documentary next season, after concluding that it could distract from the progress of the first team. Is that a good move, do you think, on their part?
Well, they would probably need more episodes to cover the absolute debacle that they've currently created for themselves there. So they'd probably have to have a soap sort of schedule for the next 12 months. I've never been a fan of these things. I understand why people like them. I understand why people think they're getting a lot of insight in them. I think some of them show insight. Some of them are staged and theatrical. I think the confrontation between Danny Rose and Mourinho was nonsense. I think it was all created for the cameras. I wonder how much of the camera influence makes people operate in a different way. But I also understand why people think they're watching something that's informative.
Yeah.
I think that United are probably well advised to get themselves into some sort of condition where they're organised, their manager is in a decent situation. They haven't got sulking Eeyores walking around the training ground with their own particular brand of rain cloud over them, like Rashford and Sancho and God knows whoever else, Anthony and Casemiro and Garnacho. And they probably need to get themselves into a better position to give themselves the best opportunity to market themselves with the best version of themselves.
Well, it's Amorim who's kiboshed it. Ruben Amorim has made it clear he was not comfortable with the potential intrusion on the first team. So probably his call has been the ultimate call, and that's why it's all off.
Of course it has, to some extent. I mean, he'll do as...
Ferguson would never have had it. Not in a million years.
Probably not. But Ferguson was a product of his time, and a remarkable product of his time, and the world's changed. And I agree with a lot of what Ferguson says about the way that cameras and... we will differ on this. I think there's only a certain amount of access that the broadcaster needs to have, and I think there's only a certain amount of entitlement they should feel. But as a broadcaster, natural broadcaster, you'll say access all areas. We want as much information as we can get because it creates content.
It's dynamite, Simon.
Yeah, and some, but
I mean, Arteta there with the light bulb. I'm not too sure what it was going on about. Pep Guardiola, everybody sit down and shut up. But it was going against City that particular game. But there's a funny thing is, everybody stop making faces. I mean, that is gold.
But there's a funny, and that's great, and you see a certain management style which is pack it in, get your heads into the game. I'm the boss, not you. Great. I would reasonably assume that's what's being said anyway. I'd reasonably assume that someone had some authority over these highly paid islands.
Yeah, but you don't have to assume. We're seeing it here, and we're hearing it for the first time.
What happened to the magnificent culture of what stays in the dressing room? What happened to that then?
You see, that's what you lose, isn't it?
Well, you lose that. You lose the ability to be able to be honest at times, because if you are aware of cameras, and you will be aware of them, and they might be less and less aware the more that they're there. There will be an element of acting out. There'll be an element of distraction, and there'll be an element of Disneyfication of what at times is serious commercial sport that needs to be discussed in a certain way. And whilst the viewer wants to see every access all areas, sometimes there's no. So what happens next? Should the broadcaster be in there when you're negotiating with an agent over a player transfer?
Why not?
Because there's commercially sensitive stuff in there. And people's salaries or people's particular individual aspects of their contracts are specific to them.
We know most of them. We know what we need to know about salaries these days anyway.
We think we know, right? But when you're sitting there listening to a negotiation, I mean, I'd quite like it, because then you can see the absolute ghastly, absolute horrors of human beings that agents are. And then you can see how avaricious the players are, and it might give you a different perspective. But actually, they won't want you to see that. They want you to see that they're all whiter than white, and everything's above board, and everything is wonderful, and they're committed, and they can't wait to kiss the badge, and they're ready to go.
Yeah, but we're all told how tough Daniel Levy is in negotiation with agents. Then we might just be able to see a bit of that. What's wrong with that?
As an owner, I'd be quite happy for you to see it. I bet you the players and agents wouldn't want to see it, because then they'd be painted in their true glory. I'm not suggesting that wonderful talent and remarkable footballers shouldn't be rewarded, and that they shouldn't be lionised if they do remarkable things. We have a habit of lionising mediocrity, but they wouldn't want you to see that, because then the public would get the real picture. Let's show it all. Let's not show the bits where people have a little tear up in the dressing room. Let's show the bits when the players don't want to train. Let's show the bits when the players have a tantrum and they don't turn up to public appearances. Let's show the bits when it's really coming on top, when you're seeing controversy.
The Arsenal one with Aubameyang did that.
No, it didn't.
Yes, it did.
No, it didn't.
Arteta well and truly was not having Aubameyang.
Oh, good. Yeah, right. He didn't do it to Aubameyang, did he? He did it about Aubameyang.
We saw him.
He used a television show.
We saw him strip him of the captaincy.
Fantastic.
We see a lot. I mean, it's different to your time at Palace when you hid in a room next door to the dressing room with a glass against the wall, wasn't it?
I didn't hide in the room.
Yes, you did.
I just didn't give people like you an opportunity to say I was in the dressing room. What I did was I listened out of interest to see what my manager was saying.
You listened out of interest?
Yeah, I was really interested. And the two managers I ever did it with were Warnock and Bruce, because I really liked what they had to say. And it lifted me, because I'm sitting there watching a team. I want my team to win. I want them to be successful. And it's really nice to hear a manager saying sensible things rather than some of the crap I had to listen to over the years.
But some of it's dynamite, Simon. You cannot deny that.
I'm not arguing against it.
When Aubameyang turned up in Barcelona, we saw the negotiation that was involved to get him out the club.
Yeah, I'm not against the idea that there's a reason and a space for it. I hate reality TV. I'd rather set myself on fire than watch Love Island.
So you never get into the jungle?
No, God knows no. And I hate all that sort of stuff. But I understand.
We'd like to put you in the jungle.
I understand that there's an audience that really likes it. So the balance is I know it sounds slightly pompous, it's not meant to, but what benefit is wisdom if it doesn't profit the wise? What did you gain from seeing the mechanics of something besides for your own delectation? Fantastic. And I know it's a Disneyfication of sport, and I recognise the entertainment value of it. As an owner of a football club, there's certain things that I want to say to somebody that's nobody else's business. And by the way, if they're broadcast by a broadcaster, they won't be edited in a way that's advantageous to anybody. They'll be edited in a way that's the most controversial and perhaps with the most jeopardy. And I understand why that's the case. So why would you want to put yourself in the eye of that particular storm?
It's actuality stuff, though. It's magnificent. It's behind the scenes. It's what it says on the tin.
Is it?
It's in the dressing room. It's Pep laying into his players. Hey, you, stop making faces. Listen up. I'm not God. Listen to what I'm saying. It's dynamite.
I'll tell you what would be dynamite is if you filmed this stuff without them knowing it.
What would have been dynamite if the Palace players had caught you in the next room listening to them? That would have been dynamite.
They didn't have to. It was a physio room. I wasn't on the other side of the bloody building.
Or did you go into the wrong room?
Everybody knew where I was.
All right.
The fact is that if you wanted to really do this and you really want to get walks and fly on the wall stuff, don't tell them there's cameras there. Don't let them know there's a documentary being filmed. Then see how you get on.
Secret filming.
Now
you're talking.
Then you'll get the real kit and caboodle.
I'm not sure if that's legal, is it? Mind you, he doesn't care about legality, does he? We'll make a television producer review yet. Simon Jordan of Access All Areas, Amazon Prime. Wow. We're coming up. It won't be. Don't expect Manchester United to get involved in it next season, though, because they ain't doing it. Amarim's put his foot down. We're at 12 noon.
With Victor Gyökeres likely heading to Arsenal, what next for Manchester United's search for a striker? Rio Ferdinand told talkSPORT who he wants in.
I'll be disappointed to miss out on Gyökeres if we don't get a number 9 in. But if we got Osimhen, then I wouldn't be too concerned.
So Victor Osimhen to Man United. Well, our chief football correspondent, Alex Crook, reckons it looks unlikely.
Now that Galatasaray are really trying to push this deal. Napoli have turned down their initial offer, but he's already agreed personal terms. I think his game would translate very well to the Premier League. I'm surprised there's not more Premier League interest, really. Maybe it's his reputation character-wise. Maybe it's that he commands big wages.
Newcastle have agreed a £55 million deal to sign Forest winger Anthony Elanga. Ruben Amorim's side benefit from that too, receiving a 20% sell-on fee. This could help the club finally bag Brahim Mbumo. Here's talkSPORT's Ben Jacobs.
The good news for Manchester United fans is that the valuation between the clubs is not far off. Manchester United's last bid was £55 million guaranteed, £7.5 million in add-ons. Those add-ons, to my understanding, were not gettable enough in the eyes of Brentford.
You can grab all the latest transfer news at talkSPORT.com. Tennis now, and Jannik Sinner said he couldn't accept progress to the Wimbledon quarter-finals as a win after Grigor Dimitrov was forced to retire whilst 2 sets up. The Bulgarian fell to the ground saying, my pec, and was reduced to tears before throwing in the towel. Brit Dan Evans told talkSPORT it's a massive loss.
It's the 5th Grand Slam in a row Grigor's had to withdraw from or retire from, I think. Yeah, it's terrible, really, especially, I mean, I know it doesn't make much of a difference, but he was playing such good tennis and he'll take no solace from that. But yeah, it's tough to watch.
And Chelsea could make the final of the Club World Cup tonight with victory against Brazilian side Fluminense. Tickets for the game are going for less than a tenner, a massive drop from almost 350 quid earlier this week. But travelling fans for the PSG and Real Madrid semi-final are paying almost £150. There's more on this at talksport.com.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is now officially Tuesday afternoon. It's Jim White and it's Simon Jordan, and we are live in talkSPORT, streaming live on your smart TV and YouTube. You can watch the show as well as listen to it. Very soon we're back up in the 17th floor of the news building in a brand new studio. Looking forward to that. We've made do with our little intimate studio down here. It's been an experience, but it's been fine. I've had you virtually sitting on my knee for the last few weeks, but that's been fine. We've got through it and we'll continue to get through it. And I found out over the weekend many things about this show. When we talk boxing, many of you love to listen. A lot of you came up to me over the weekend when I was up in the Northwest saying how much you enjoy the likes of Simon's contribution, the likes of Frank Warren, the likes of this, that and the next when we come to boxing. And of course a huge fight coming up this month, Daniel Dubois taking on Alexander Usyk. Both of those fighters were in this very studio, intimate or not, just a few weeks ago. Well, they do battle at Wembley in the coming days, and we shall be all over that. We were all over this going into it. Jack Catterall up against Harlem Eubank at the weekend. It didn't live up to the billing of that, there is no doubt. And Catterall outpointed Eubank by a technical decision that ended early due to a clash of heads at Manchester's AO Arena. On Simon's Top Boxing show yesterday, Harlem Eubank said, yeah, it didn't hit the spot, did it?
It was a close fight. Jack's a stand-up guy. Yeah, you know, he got the decision, and you know, I'm not gonna argue with how the rounds were at that stage in the fight, because it was a fight where I went into it with the tactics to, you know, make him miss early and maybe be behind on the cards and get to him later in the fight. So I can't argue with the decision at that point. Maybe I was 4-2 down on the scorecards. The plan was to come into the fight. I feel like I was doing that. It got cut short by the cuts, and I'm not going to argue with that decision.
So, Harlem Eubank in conversation with Spencer Oliver and with Simon here to my left is now available to you on the Top Boxing YouTube channel. The fact is, it didn't hit the spot. So, is it going to be worth having a rematch? I'm delighted to say Jamie Moore, Jack Catterall's trainer, joins us live this lunchtime. Are you guys, Jamie, looking for a rematch? What's your take on it?
Hi, guys. I don't see there's any mileage in a rematch, in all honesty. As you say, it didn't really ignite or catch fire the fight early on. No, we'd probably be having a different conversation if both guys sort of the fight caught fire early on, and it was a great fight to watch up to that point. And it wasn't. It was very technical. Harlem got on the back foot, moved around. Jack got him in the end of his jab, was landing a couple of straight 1-2s down the middle, and then that was pretty much it. So So I think he was right. He was 5-1 or 4-2 to Jack, but he definitely won the fight. But I just don't see any mileage. That's all in a rematch.
I mean, Jimmy, quite a few people have said your fighter, Jack Catterall, who we like, who's a good fighter, but in this occasion, he delivered too much of a cautious performance. He didn't want to take risks. Surely taking risks in a big fight like this is what it's all about.
Well, it's stylistically, Jack's always been the type of person who is very defensive. There has been fights where he's been in really exciting fights, and there's been fights where he's not been that great to watch unless you're a purist and you're into the more technical side of it. But, Harlem Eubank wanted to try and come and take Jack's position in terms of where he is in the rankings and stuff. And in my book, if that's the case, then you have to do more than sort of dance around on the outside and try and sort of make Jack look bad, which was literally what it looked like to me. In all honesty, I knew it was going to be like that. I sort of hedged my bets and I said, I don't feel like he's going to engage. I think he's going to run, and you've just got to make sure that you're winning on points from the outside.
What was your take on it, Simon? Well, it did not live up to the billing. No, you were in conversation yesterday with Harlem yesterday and Spencer.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to Jamie, even though he's cancelled Talk Boxing twice. Look, I mean, the fact of the matter is Jack Catterall is a world-class operator, and what Harlem was trying to suggest, and who's a nice lad himself, was that the game plan was that they'll take Jack Catterall down the stretch, and that in every fight that he's been in, that he has dealt with fighters later on in the fight. But this is a world-class operator. So I said that to Harlem. I don't think that's the case. I think you're overcooking the pudding. But I was curious to see from your point of view, Jamie. You've stepped up to 147, and ultimately you saw Josh step up. He got beat by Eko Osman. The fact that the fight was stopped, I think Jack was comfortable in the fight. I think Jack fought the fight that he fights most of the time, and being a technician and a quality fighter, he did the job that he needed to do. I don't think there was any doubt that the referee's decision was right. I was disappointed with the doctors. I think the doctor should have stepped in rather than make the referee make the decision.
Absolutely.
But I spoke to Sam yesterday. There's no appetite from you guys whatsoever for a rematch. I don't think there'd be appetite from the viewing public. But for Jack now, he's back on the winning ways after the Barbosa defeat. What happens now?
I'd love for him to get a world title opportunity. I think the WBA champion is Giasov, I think his name is. That's the fight what we'd love to have. The winner of the IBF title fight, which is Crocker v Donovan. I think that's potentially a good fight for Jack. And I think you're right. Jack's very, very good technically, and we need to be conscious of the type of styles we put him in with, because we don't want him getting that reputation of being a boring fighter, because he's been involved in some exciting fights. Stylistically, sorry. Yeah, so I was just saying stylistically, you need to make sure the matchups are going to be a good fit for the viewing public as well. So, the winner of Crocker and Donovan for me would be ideal, because both of those guys, I feel like it would be a good fight to watch.
On the horizon, of course, we've got Daniel Dubois going in again against Alexander Usyk. They fought before, as you know, Jamie, and it was Usyk who came out on top, even though Daniel floored Usyk with that deemed to be a low blow. There is so much talk about this. There'll be even more the closer we get to the fight. Is this going to be Dubois' time? Is he going to do what Joshua and Fury couldn't?
In all honesty, I don't think so. I think he's in a way better position this time around to pull off the upset. He's probably one of the most improved fighters in the world over the last couple of years, Daniel Dubois. So he's not without question. He's a huge puncher, but Alexander Usyk is just an amazing fighter. The way he shuts people down technically, he's really, really difficult to beat. And I just don't see, unless he's aged overnight, I don't see Dubois being able to pull it off. The controversy the first time with a body shot, was it a body shot? Was it low? I've got a feeling he's going to try and hunt the body, but in doing that, Usyk's not stupid. He'll know what he's going to do.
Can I just ask you a question going back to the Catterall situation? Why is Conor Benn going in Harlem Eubank's dressing room on behalf of you guys?
Well, first of all, it's quite funny. I think it was it was definitely. Listen, Harlem Eubank left us waiting all week, and we knew what he was doing. He was mind games, which is part and parcel of the game. And at the last minute, so what happened was Nige Travis always goes in and oversees the wraps. That's what he does every time. we was actually in the ring with Akib Fiaz when they had to oversee the wraps. So we needed somebody else to go in. And Sam Jones decided it'd be a nice little mind games to send Conor Benn in. And I thought it was quite funny.
I'm sure you'd be thrilled if Josh Taylor came rocking in your dressing room.
Oh, absolutely. But I've known Josh for a long time. We'd have been all right with that.
What's happening with Dave Allen?
Hopefully we get a date soon. It's looking like maybe early October. There's talk of TKV for the British title, which I think is a great fight.
Yeah.
And I tell you, Dave Allen is having that Indian summer. He's finally at this late stage of his career found his dedication to the sport. And I've said this a few times. I feel like it's because he's a dad now. He's got a family to provide for. And he's really enjoying his boxing, and he's getting better and better. We really don't know how good Dave can be, I promise you. He's getting better in the gym at 32 years old, just for the simple fact he's dedicated his life to it now, and I'm over the moon for him.
I've known Dave Allen for quite a number of years now, Jamie, and like you, like Simon, no doubt, really adore the lad. He's a great guy, but tell me we're not going into the territory of Dave going in with Joseph Parker or Deontay Wilder, or are we?
Jim, listen, that's what I'm saying to you. I have no idea where Dave's ceiling is, because he has no idea, because he's never committed himself to the sport properly. But in a weird way, it's actually working out for him, because you think about he's gained so much experience and ring craft over the years, because he's not physically been in a position to be fit enough to compete, have a good engine over, say, a 10-round period. So he's picked up a lot of craftiness. His ring craft is unbelievable. Now add to that a big engine, and honestly, the sky's the limit. So if he goes in there, hopefully if this fight comes off and he can fight for the British title against TKV, then he goes in there and does a number on him. The sky's the limit for him. I promise you. We've not even scratched the surface with Dave Allen, because we just don't know what his real potential is.
Yeah, and I do feel, Jamie, no one would deserve a bigger payday or a big payday more than Dave. Be great. It would be very fitting, wouldn't it?
The whole of British boxing would be over the moon for him. Whatever success he has now, everyone will cheer him on. But he's such a great lad. He's, when anyone who follows him on Instagram, he's so dry and funny, and he's just like your typical guy. If you went in a pub and had a pint, he'd be there. And he's potentially the next superstar of British boxing. He's ace to see at this stage of his career.
Jamie, always good to speak to you, mate. Next time Top Boxing approach you, mate, come on, do it for the man.
Mate,
he wants you on.
Honestly, I'm so busy with the gym, and I wish I could have come down.
Of course you are.
Please, let's try and nail it down. Third time lucky, boys, eh?
There you go. I'll have a word with him. Jimmy, thank you very much indeed. Jamie Moore, Jack Cattle's trainer, with us this lunchtime. There's a fellow, actually, Paul, getting in touch. Guys, whilst I don't want to glorify betting, and of course you're not doing that, he says, I had a bet on at the weekend it would be a KO or a TKO for Jack Cattrall over Harlem Eubank, and it ended with a clash of heads. Does that constitute a TKO? I'm not sure.
I don't think so, does it?
No, I'm not sure. Paul, we'll have a look. We'll try and find out for that one, and we'll see whether or not you're going to get whatever money is you feel you are due. Jamie Moore with us live this lunchtime on talkSPORT.
plays that villain role very well now. It's crying out for a little bit more attention. It comes with a lot of crazy people. I took it personally and it kind of made me rebel a bit more. To be honest, I don't really care anymore. I'm never going to change.
It is Jim White and Simon Jordan. It's Tuesday lunchtime and we are live on talkSPORT. I mentioned earlier, Simon, quite a lot of Leicester fans getting in touch this lunchtime. Do we know as to who is going to be the man named to take over from Ruud van Nistelrooy? Gary O'Neill said to be very much in the frame. Chris Wilder said to be very much in the frame as well. They're understood to be the front runners this lunchtime to replace Van Nistelrooy at Leicester. We know that Leicester dropped down to the Championship, so whoever gets the job has got to have some kind of know-how about that territory and what's involved in getting out of that division. What do you think? Where do you think they'll lean to? Chris Wilder, I know. Yeah. I think would be the choice of many. We know Gary, and of course Gary, if it's a project, then Gary might be your man. If it's an experienced head regards to the Championship, Chris Wilder might be the man.
Yeah, I mean, it depends upon what the working relationships are in there, who the personalities are, and who they like in terms of the interactivity. Now, I've been critical about Chris Wilder's interactivity with his own at Sheffield United 2 or 3 years ago, but that's a long time ago. Chris Wilder took Sheffield United down with a side that was very poor that he inherited, right? He got them together, gave him a boot up the backside, and he said it himself. I listened to him saying it during the season last year about the attitude that was at Sheffield United, and he changed it. And they've got to think that that's a valuable commodity, because Leicester, despite their travails, will want to get out of the Championship as quick as possible. Gary O'Neill obviously had 2 good seasons, one at Bournemouth when no one gave him much of a chance because Scott Parker told everybody how useless Bournemouth were going to be, and ultimately he proved them wrong by taking over the same squad. Yeah, a little bit of help in the January window. He did well in his first season at Wolves. It all fell apart. I think they both have equal merit. If I was leaning towards one, and I like Gary a lot, I would potentially lean towards Wilder, because I think that there may be at Leicester that the players in there that need their minds concentrated. There needs to be a change up, and there needs to be a preparation for going again hard to get out of this division. Okay, that's not diminishing Gary by any comparison. When it comes to managerial movement, we're across that. We're certainly across player movement as well, with the likes of Ben Jacobs and Alex Crook working time without any limit of time on these kind of stories. Victor Gyökeres said to be now closer than ever to moving to Arsenal. That's what we hear here. But what is the mood over in Portugal? The executive director of Record, the newspaper in Portugal, is Sergio Critinas, and Sergio joins us live this lunchtime. Sergio, good afternoon to you. What is the latest? Hello. Good afternoon to you, Sergio. Thanks for joining us. What's the latest from your end of Gyökeres to Arsenal? Is this all but done?
It's not done yet. Hello. There is still a big, I would say, fight, a bit stalemate between Sporting and Gyökeres agents right now, because the last bid from Arsenal was 65 million euros on fixed payment plus 15 million euros in bonuses, from which 5 would be easily reachable. But Sporting are demanding 70 as a fixed fee. So, and still Gyökeres, he has given up on 2 million euros on his own salary for the 5 years with Arsenal, in order to allow the club to increase their offer for the transfer fee. So right now, Gyökeres is really upset because he feels he's already sacrificing his cut, his part of the salary, to make the deal happen. And Sporting keep saying they want 70 at least.
Simon Jordan is beside me, Sergio, a former club owner himself. You would probably say, well, Sporting Lisbon are right, Simon, to hold out for every dime they can.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously there's no release clause. I think there was deals done with Coventry back in the day where sell-ons have already been taken out of commission because Coventry wanted the money earlier on in the season, if I'm right in my understanding. But also, I mean, you've taken Enzo Fernandez out of Benfica for 105 million quid, which Chelsea did a couple of years ago. You've got a guy here now that scored a remarkable amount of goals. And I know it's the Portuguese league, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it still means it's got to translate into the Premier League. £60 million, which if they get their 70 million euros, which is £60 million, I mean, that is a steal for a centre forward that scored something like 98 goals in 96 games or something. I mean, I don't blame them for pushing the envelope as much as they possibly can to get as much money. If the player's been facilitatory in some of his salary demands, then that's good to make a deal happen. But I don't blame them. They're not going to break the deal. They're just going to try and push the envelope as far as they possibly can.
Well, as Simon says, Sergio, Gyökeres himself is being as facilitatory as he can be. In other words, he's giving up a lot to get the deal done. But there were even reports that he's prepared to go on strike to force the move through. Is that true?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, Gyökeres was supposed to join the training with the team yesterday, on Monday. But Sporting, they announced 2 days earlier, they announced he had permission to arrive only on Friday, together with 2 players that were in the Euro Under-21, Konrad Arder, the Danish striker, and Giovanni Kenda, the soon-to-be Chelsea player. So Sporting also avoided that moment of Gyökeres not showing up to his work by letting him stay on holidays for another 4 days. And we all expect these 4 days are the key to make the deal happen, you know. So we all expect that the deal will be done until Friday. Because if it doesn't happen, I think it's very clear from what I know that Gyökeres will not show up at Sporting. He definitely doesn't want to play again for the club. He has already told the president that very clearly. And he feels that somehow he has the right, after so many goals he scored for the club, so many trophies he helped the club win, he feels he has the right to have some easy time on leaving, you know, because he has a buyout clause of 100 million euros, which is a lot of money for a 27-year-old player. And of course, he has scored a lot of goals, and he has been probably the most impressive player I've seen in the Portuguese league in the last, I would say, 30, 40 years. And
wow!
But yeah, he's 27.
Yeah,
he's 27, and I know, I can understand why English clubs have some doubts about him, because he played for Coventry, he played for Brighton, he played for Swansea, and he exploded late. Was one of those cases of a late bloomer. That happens, okay.
Yeah.
And right now I feel he's totally ready to play in the top level. But I can understand why some clubs have doubts about him.
It's not necessarily just reservations. I mean, ultimately, the player has no grounds, and surely you guys in the Portuguese press must have a view on this. If there's a release clause in his contract for 100 million euros, which he was happy to sign, then he should have no real issue with the club trying to make it as commercially beneficial to them, because he and his agent allowed that £100 million release clause in it. It's not being met.
Yeah.
So Sporting have every right to do what they're doing.
Yeah, Simon, you are theoretically you're right, but there are some episodes of the story as well.
What, gentleman's handshake stuff?
Yeah, first of all, Gyökeres didn't want the 100 million buyout clause. Sporting pushed it and added a penalty clause. If they got an offer for 60, an official bid for 60, Sporting would have to pay the commission's fee to the agents on 10%.
Okay.
So that was somehow a sign that Sporting, we give you an exit of 60. Of course, it's not an automatic exit, because Sporting can pay the 6 million euros and keep the player.
Yeah.
And then there was this after the first season, they met in September, and there was this agreement. Sporting president told him, and he has told him, we will never ask for the buyout clause for you because you're 27. It's hard to get that kind of money for a player at 27. And then the agents claim that they promised to have a 60 plus 10 million euros exit fee.
It's a strange situation, Sergio. A buyout clause, but we're not going to hold them to it. I want to ask you this. I need you to clarify this for me.
Yeah.
Was there any truth that at some stage he might have been reuniting with Ruben Amorim at Manchester United? Were Manchester United ever in for this boy here?
I'm pretty sure Amorim would love to do it, would love to have him. But from what I know, and this is something I was told even before the January transfer window, that United was not in the plans of Gyökeres, because he feels that it's a club it's still far from being fighting for the league in the Premier League. They still have to grow a lot, develop a lot as a team, and so Gyökeres he wants to goes to a club where he has more chances of winning trophies in a short time.
Jeez. So Gyökeres looked at Arsenal and thinks, I've got a better chance there of winning some trophies than I would have at Manchester United.
Yeah, I think that's common sense. I mean, Arsenal, they are being second, third in the Premier League in the last years, so they have been close to winning the title. So probably with the top striker, they can do it.
Sergio, thank you so much. Sergio, just in the passing, can I thank you again for joining us the other day on the sad day that we learned of the passing of Diogo Jota and his brother Andre Silva. It was a tough day for everybody, and it's still an
really
extremely
tough for us,
I can imagine, still a very tough situation for you guys there. Thank you for joining us then, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, my pleasure. Okay.
Sergio Critinas, Executive Director of The Record in Portugal. Interesting that Gyökeres himself saying, no, not United, Arsenal.
Yeah, well, that's not surprising, is it? Because, I mean, it's disappointing for the manager who probably thinks, in part, I developed a player that couldn't cut it in the Premier League for a variety of different clubs, whether it's Swansea, Brighton or Coventry, and that was down in the pyramid, and I developed him, gave him an opportunity. He doesn't want to play for me.
Yeah.
I'd never buy into this crap about gentleman's handshake nonsense. That's one person's word against another. That's one person's chosen interpretation. What you signed is what you signed, son. And what you got your agent to put in a contract is what you got your agent to put in a contract. You didn't do it because someone held you down and ambushed your family. You did it because it was a contract that you wanted to sign. Now you don't like it. And now you quote things that I guarantee you, if you spoke to the Sporting owner, did you have a conversation with this player and gave him an assurance on a gentleman's handshake that he could go if a deal was offered at around 60, 70 million quid? I bet you hear a different version. Okay. What they do it for is to justify the next sort of behaviour, which is, I'm going to force my way out.
Oh, these footballers.
No, just get balance in the conversation.
12:30.
With Victor Gyökeres likely heading to Arsenal, what next for Manchester United's search for a striker? Rio Ferdinand told talkSPORT who he wants in.
I'll be disappointed to miss out on Gyökeres if we don't get a number 9 in. But if we got Osimhen, then I wouldn't be too concerned.
So Victor Osimhen to Man United. Well, our chief football correspondent, Alex Crook, reckons it looks unlikely.
I think his game would translate very well to the Premier League. I'm surprised there's not more Premier League interest, really. Maybe it's his reputation character-wise. Maybe it's that he commands big wages.
You can grab all the latest transfer news at talksport.com. Tennis now, and Jannik Sinner said he couldn't accept progress to the Wimbledon quarter-finals as a win after Grigor Dimitrov was forced to retire whilst 2 sets up. The Bulgarian fell to the ground saying, my peck, and was reduced to tears before throwing in the towel. Brit Dan Evans told talkSPORT it's a massive loss.
It's terrible, really, especially, I mean, I know it doesn't make much of a difference, but he was playing such good tennis and he'll take no solace from that.
And Chelsea could make the final of the Club World Cup tonight with victory against Brazilian side Fluminense. Tickets for the game are going for less than a tenner, a massive drop from almost 350 quid earlier this week. But travelling fans for the PSG and Real Madrid semi-final are paying almost £150. There's more on this at talksport.com.
Deal on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. For the latest special offers, pick up this month's Real Deals in branch or view online at selcobw.com.
It's Jim White and Simon Jordan. Well, in talkSPORT, we're going to pick out who's been the real deal today with Selco Builders Warehouse. And I wonder how many people would agree or disagree that certainly Jan Mulder, South Africa's cricketer, one of a decent South African cricket team, puts himself in the frame to be described as the real deal for the way he behaved in this test match this week. Let me put some meat in the bones to this, Simon. Jan Mulder claimed that not breaking Brian Lara's record for the highest individual score in a test innings was, quotes, exactly the way it should be. Let me tell you more. Mulder declared on himself at lunch on day 2 of the second test against Zimbabwe in Bulawayo this week and finished on 367 not out. At the time, he was 33 runs behind the record 400 not out that the great Brian Lara made against England in Antigua in 2004. If he carried on the way he was looking to carry on, Mulder would have eclipsed that 400 total that Lara's record has held for so long. Mulder says, Brian Lara is a legend. Let's be real. He got 400 against England, or for someone of that stature. To keep that record is pretty special. If I get the chance again, I'd probably do the same thing. In other words, because it was against Zimbabwe, and maybe it was a lesser opponent than England than when Lara got his 400, he said, no, I'm going to call it quits here because Lara's record should stand and I shouldn't be seen to eclipse it at this particular time. And he's gone on to say, as you've heard, and again, if the same situation presents itself, I'd do the same thing. I mean, is there a space for compassion and mercy in what is an elite sporting environment such as that?
I guess so. I mean, he also goes on to say that I thought the team needed to have a bowl as well because trying to win a cricket match. So there's an element of that.
Come on.
You could talk about Paolo Di Canio.
He's 33 runs away of beating Lara's record.
I know. I don't know what. I mean, listen, you can talk about Paolo Di Canio catching a ball in a penalty box and handing it back when the goalkeeper's laying on the ground in the corner.
Do you like that kind of thing?
I think it has something to be admired about it. I think people are very motivated by achieving things for themselves, and often lose sight of the fact that there are other people involved, not just them. But But, you know, I don't know the fellow. I don't know what his character is. Prima facie, if you look at it and say, this is a magnanimous gesture. If you score 367 runs against any opposition, it's still remarkable.
Oh, true.
And the fact that he could have gotten 400 and got 401 and eclipsed Brian Lara's, people would then have been able to turn around and say for themselves, well, Lara scored him against England, he scored him against Zimbabwe. And they could have made that decision for themselves. So if he really is that motivated and believes that Brian Lara deserves the legendary status of having this high score, and it was indeed because it was against Zimbabwe, then you have to say, okay.
I mean, this is exactly what he's saying.
I would have batted on.
Well, there you go. You see, you would have been more ruthless. Now, why would you have batted on?
But is it more ruthless? First of all, it's a team game. So was it just a solo?
You want to be seen as a man that beats Lara's record, surely.
Well, you want to be the best of the best, don't you?
So why was he not? That's what I can't get my head around.
And so he's playing in a team sport, and the circumstances in which Lara scored 400 against England and the circumstances he scored 367 against Zimbabwe might have detailed a different stage in the game. So he's sitting there thinking, we can bowl this opposition out and win the game. So he's part of a team. If Lara had been waved in by someone else earlier on in the innings, then maybe he'd have had to make a decision where he was at a certain level of score in the game. Look, I think on paper, if this is what it is, then I don't think it's neither to be admired or disrespected. I think there was an opportunity for you to write your name. In life. You take opportunities. And you get them very, very, very rarely. If he goes again and gets to a situation where he can score 400 runs in an innings, then he'll be a lucky man, because Lara never did. And I think you take the opportunities in life when they're there, and you leave things behind you that you can look back on and say, I did that. That was me, and it was part of a team that went on to win that particular game. So I not only did the team win, I set a new standard that other people have got to follow, irrespective of the opposition. It doesn't make you ruthless. It just makes you focused on certain outcomes. And maybe in years to come, he'll look back on that and say, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Or maybe he'll be comfortable in his admiration of Brian Lara and doesn't think he's worthy of carrying his jockstrap.
Well, I think whether his jockstrap comes into it or not is another matter. But you're going in the right direction, because his reasoning being, his final line here is, I think Brian Lara keeping that record is exactly the way it should be.
Why? Okay, that's the big question, is why?
Because he puts Lara in a totally different stratosphere to himself. He would regard himself, Juan Mulder, as a damn good cricketer. Anybody must be if you get 367 not out.
Yeah.
But he's not in the same postcode as Brian Lara, in his view. But, I mean, the question is, should he be feeling that? Is there a space for compassion?
I don't know. What's compassionate about that? I mean, what you're saying is magnanimous and respectful. I don't think it's compassion. The compassion would be to the opposition. I've let you off now. I'm fed up with bashing you around the ground. That would be the compassion.
Yeah.
I mean, once upon a time, I'm assuming that Brian Lara thought Viv Richards was the best batsman in the world, and I'm assuming he didn't think that Viv Richards was someone that was was better than.
It's the exact opposite of being ruthless.
Well, why is it ruthless? I mean, it's not ruthless. I mean, you might say it's the exact opposite of being self-centred and self-obsessed, which so many sportsmen have to be, by the way, to be successful. And certainly sportsmen that are competing on their own, which is, although he's part of a team, as a batsman, you're on your own. As a golfer, you're on your own. As a tennis player, you're on your own. So you have to have a certain mindset, which details, alongside recognising that you've got a team that you're fielding with and batting alongside.
It's like some England player coming through and being brilliant, and Harry Kane has retired. And he's 2 or 3 off Harry Kane's record. I said, that's it from me. I didn't stick a couple away in the final stages of that game because I don't want to eclipse Harry Kane's record.
I'll tell you a loser then, because ultimately, if you've played an X amount of games...
So why is this guy not a loser?
Well, I don't know whether he is or he isn't. I don't know his career. I don't know how good he is and why he would think he's less than Brian Lara. But if someone scored 40... How many goals Kane scored now against X amount of friendlies, and none of them against a big opposition? I'd look at it and say, did Harry Kane think, well, I'll tell you what, I better stop scoring goals because Bobby Charlton or Gary Lineker was a better player than me? He didn't, did he?
No.
He carried on scoring goals. So I don't relate to this mindset, but I also don't condemn it.
Was there a space for this in business?
It depends if you want to go and pour. If you want to sit in a room and in a deal, you have to do a deal with somebody and leave something on the other side of the table for the other fellow. It's not a deal. That's not a deal. Then you don't do deals. But if you've got an opportunity to take advantage of a situation and capitalise it and turn it into an opportunity and outcome, which is in part why I dislike Parish intensely, but I respect what he did to me because he took an opportunity. It was business, not personal. He made it personal later on, but it was business, and I got it up the backside and have to get on with it. But the point is it being ruthless, or is it taking an opportunity when it's there? If you've got an opportunity to score the world's most runs in a cricket match, get in there, son, and do it. Exactly. And then turn around and say, by the way, the best cricketer that ever held a bat was Brian Lara.
We got there in the end, didn't we? Juan Mulder, you don't know it, but we've been talking about you this lunchtime, live in talkSPORT. That was our pick of this week's Real Deal with Selco Builders Warehouse. For the latest special offers, pick up this month's Real Deals in branch or view online at selcobw.com.
The Real Deal on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's Real Deals at selcobw.com.
He plays that villain role very well now. It's crying out for a little bit more attention. It comes with a lot of crazy people. I took it personally and it kind of made me rebel a bit more. To be honest, I don't really care anymore. I'm never going to change.
FIFA Club World Cup Roundup on talkSPORT, presented by DAZN. Watch every game of the FIFA Club World Cup live and for free on DAZN. Sign up now at DAZN.com.
So it's got to that stage, has it not, in the Club World Cup? All thanks to the Zone. We're at the semi-final stage, and now Chelsea go in first in the MetLife Stadium up against the Brazilian club Fluminense. It's live in talkSPORT, followed tomorrow night by Paris Saint-Germain taking on Real Madrid. Who's going to make it to the final? Will Chelsea make it to that final? talkSPORT's reporter at the Club World Cup has been and still is Ben Jacobs. Ben will join us in a second. Before that, Ben has been in conversation with João Pedro, Pedro, who moved recently from Brighton to Chelsea in a £50 million move. And João Pedro reflected on that move with Ben.
I was in holidays, but I always training my vacation. But I have a personal trainer. I train as well, I enjoy, but I have to train, I have to be ready. Like for example, imagine if I don't train and Chelsea call me to come, it will be more difficult for me. Chelsea had interest on me, so that's why I was training more harder. And when they call me to come here, I was ready, not 100%, but ready for training to come here and play maybe. And I did my debut, so I think it was great experience for me.
Where do you see your best position? Because you are a very versatile kind of attacker.
I would say striker. I like to play number 9, but also I like to feel free on the pitch. That's what Enzo said to me. Play like a number 9, but also come deeper to link up with the other players. I'm a very technical player. I like to score as well. I think also I play like a 9, but I also have a mind like a 10 as well. So I think this link up, this combination with the teammates, I think will be good for Chelsea.
So that was João Pedro in conversation with Ben Jacobs. The fact of the matter is this, going into this one, Nicholas Jackson, red carded recently, is back and available. Liam Delap is out, suspended. So Ben Jacobs over in the States, might João Pedro get the nod to go in against Fluminense tonight?
Yeah, good afternoon. I think there's a chance that João Pedro features, but remember Enzo Maresca has a high value of Nicholas Jackson and his role in the team, and it wouldn't surprise me, therefore, if Jackson returns and gets an opportunity and the chance to make amends for 2 reckless red cards, really, one here at the Club World Cup and the other in the Premier League as well against Newcastle United, which means that Jackson misses that first game against Crystal Palace. I also think that Enzo Maresca's perspective of João Pedro is a little bit different to that of the player himself, who said in that interview he sees himself as a number 9. I think Enzo Maresca views João Pedro as a more versatile kind of attacker, and therefore Liam Delap and Jackson are the 9, and João Pedro is perhaps more a player in the Christopher Nkunku mode, and that's why I sense that Cole Palmer will start behind the striker, and in a big game with roughly 20 million or so at stake this afternoon here, we might see Jackson return and Pedro might have to do with another place on the bench.
I noticed João Pedro was making it clear to you, though, Ben, that when he heard of Chelsea's interest, he'd kept himself fit, but then kept himself match fit in case he was called upon, and that's exactly what's happened.
Yeah, it shows you that the player was obviously aware of the interest at least a couple of weeks before the Chelsea bid actually materialised. And that resulted in him having a personal trainer, and that personal trainer allowed him to be sharp. So he's gone from the beaches of Rio to the beaches of Miami to competitive football at the Club World Cup, and been able to do so because of that personal trainer keeping himself sharp. And when he came on in the last game, when Chelsea progressed, beating Palmeiras, he was very much a difference maker, I think. We should note that so was Noni Madueke, who's been heavily linked with a move to Arsenal. But Pedro made an impact off the bench, showing what he can do, again playing in that more versatile role. So it'll be interesting to see whether he gets the nod at number 9, or he's viewed as someone that can start out wide and cause damage, or alternatively play behind the striker. But for Pedro, he only wanted Chelsea. We know that Newcastle United also tried and pushed relatively hard to try and get that deal over the line. But the former Brighton player was waiting for Chelsea. And in the end, I think the club-to-club negotiations were relatively simple, because Brighton also wanted to sell. So it was a deal that suited all parties for a total package in the region of £60 million.
Interestingly, Ben, as Simon and I have been discussing this throughout it, the aspect of the weather comes into it, and might play be suspended. We don't know what the weather's going to be like this afternoon. You might update us on that. And empty seats, a big feature of this tournament, Ben. So many empty seats, people maybe not buying into it. So much so that standard admission for today's semi-final between Chelsea and Fluminense have seen huge price swings in a very short space of time. A ticket that was once $473 is coming in at $13.40.
Yeah, exactly. The tickets are dynamic pricing. So I checked about half an hour ago, and you can buy one for about 15 quid at the moment, which is about $25. And as you rightly say, these tickets have been advertised certainly in excess of $200. And if you're looking for halfway line, decent seats, then it can actually be as high as $400 or $500, which is in keeping with going to see a Yankees game, and that's the nature of dynamic pricing. What we're going to see with both of these semi-finals is more of a surge in terms of attendance, simply because of the fact that more European fans are travelling over, because these are big games with high finances at stake. But there's definitely a discrepancy between Bayern PSG, where you're looking at a minimum of $200, and Chelsea's game today against Fluminense, where you can start from 15 quid. And 2 weeks ago, the same tickets were pretty much 10 times the price. So there's one or two fans that are actually going to be getting a refund from FIFA because they've paid the higher amount, only to find the price has dropped significantly. So it's obvious that two things have happened. The first, the dynamic pricing just does its job, and there hasn't been as much demand. And the second thing is FIFA want to make sure that these two semi-finals and the final are completely sold out, so they can ultimately say that the Club World Cup ended with a surge in attendances and bill the tournament, therefore, as a success, even though several games throughout the tournament have been relatively empty.
As Ben says, FIFA will do what it takes, won't they?
Yeah.
To get bums on seats, literally.
Yeah. I mean, the revenue from the gate receipts is often dwarfed by the broadcast revenues, and obviously the Zone and the Saudis have bridged that particular gap.
Yeah.
But it's the optics of things, and Infantino, much as I dislike the optics of things, it's Infantino's job to announce that it's an unbridled, unprecedented, unrivaled success.
Sure. Talking about the optics of things, Ben, to finish with, John Duran has officially joined Fenerbahce in Turkey on a year-long loan, 6 months after moving from Aston Villa to Al Nassr in a deal that was worth 71 million quid. How damaging to the Saudi mission are the early leavers, such as John Duran?
Yeah, I think in many ways this is more of a blow than when Jordan Henderson left, because it's at one of the big PIF clubs. And the whole point of Duran was he was billed as the young profile that Saudi were moving towards. So therefore, phase 2 of the project was all about peak players rather than star names that might have actually been over the age of 30, and there was a huge fee involved as well. So we'll have to kind of wait and see what happens after the loan, because there's no option or obligation to buy as far as I'm aware. So I suppose Saudi can just say that at the end of the day, Duran is still an Al Nassr player, but he's only been there since January. I think he didn't settle, and now we're in a situation where one of the most expensive signings and one of the youngest and most prized assets is at Fenerbahce, not Al Nassr. He's leaving Cristiano Ronaldo's club. It's a younger and at peak age, and start to have some second thoughts about moving to Saudi Arabia. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is also expected to depart Al Qadsiya at the other extreme, so they're going to need a new striker too. And the Saudi window hasn't really got going. Al Hilal failed to sign Victor Osimhen, so we're definitely seeing a bit of a struggle in terms of Saudi getting deals over the line at the moment. And now we have to wait and see, because the window is open in Saudi Arabia, how aggressive clubs are. But what we're seeing is a two-way market at the moment, and whereas Saudi would like some outgoings to prove they can get a return on investment, what they don't want is just a flurry of exits, because the players don't want to be there, and there's more exits than signings coming into Saudi at the moment. So deal makers and clubs will have to scramble to change the optics of that. Otherwise, this could be a very disappointing window for Saudi Arabia.
OK, Ben, thank you very much indeed. And of course, we saw Simon Manchester City fall at the Club World Cup.
Oh dear.
At a Saudi hurdle.
Oh, you lot were banging on about how Saudi was going to do this, and how why wouldn't Duran want to sign for Saudi, and he's going to the Ronaldo project. He's out of there.
Yes.
Gone.
He is.
Villa must be laughing.
Chelsea going against Fluminense, PSG going against Real Madrid. And remember, you can watch for free in DAZN. Sign up at DAZN.com. You take Chelsea to go through. Do you take PSG or Real Madrid to go through? I can't remember.
PSG.
There you go, and I agree with you. We'll see what happens. We'll be back tomorrow at 10. Good luck to Chelsea. The Club World Cup semi-final. The final's one step away. We'll see.
FIFA Club World Cup Roundup on talkSPORT, presented by DAZN. Sign up now at DAZN.com to watch every game live and for free.